Yo, give me a second here, yo. I'm roboting. Hold on a second. What's up, everybody? Give me 1 second. I got a bad audio. Hold on. All right, there we go. Can y'all hear me? Wow, just roboted big time. Hopefully, all right. Yo, what's up, y'all? Are we good? Are we good? Can you hear me? I don't know what happened there. It was the update, as always. When they do the update, it changes everything. So, what's up, y'all? We got kind of a good stream tonight. Let me know if my audio's all right. Give me a thumbs up there. I should be good. Let me make sure of this. Let me check this. Turn this off real quick. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Let me close this. Close this tab because that was terrible. All right, there we go. Should be good. Yeah, could y'all hear that? It like totally Aphex twinned out. All right, so yeah, we've got a guest coming. He's going to drop in. One of my friends, y'all seen him before. One of our good friends. So tonight, what we're doing is we're talking about Chaz Manson, and I've got a big treat for you. Now, if you, I'm sure everybody here, all the regulars, all my friends here, have seen the Chaz Manson stream that I did on Chaos, the book by Tom O'Neill, right here. Tom O'Neill's Chaos, right? Which was Charles Manson, the CIA, and the secret history of the 60s. And also in that one, I talked about this one right here, which is Manson, the Life and Times of Charles Manson by Jeff Gwynne. But what I did recently was I've been, I think you guys are going to have fun with this because I spent some time looking into, I don't know what prompted this, but I spent some time looking into, I was just looking into Geraldo. Okay, let's put it there. I think what happened was I was watching Natural Born Killers, or I was watching clips from it again, and so because of that, the character of Wayne Gale in Natural Born Killers by Oliver Stone, 1994, is a Geraldo character. He's a tabloid character, right? He's a pure media creature. He's a complete creature, right? And what's interesting is that um, the movie Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers is has everybody seen it? It's a classic movie, and it's really interesting for a number of reasons. And I'm going to kind of do an analysis back and forth of the film, sort of interwoven with Chaz Manson, and kind of go over again stuff from Tom O'Neill, right? And of course, Dave McGowan plays a role in this. And I think that I was going to do, by the way, I'm going on my trip tomorrow. I got a long road. I'm driving 900 miles tomorrow. And I would really appreciate it if you want to support me this Christmas season. I need, you can send me those gas funds, send me those gas coins, that gasoline coin. I would really appreciate it. And what was I going to cover? I was going to cover Arabian Nights this week, and maybe this was going to be my last one, before I left. But I just decided that I'm going to kind of hold off on that one because I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about it yet, you guys. Yes, it's a complex book and it's a classic and canon. But again, I'll reiterate because I said this last time. One of the things, did you know that the very first sentence of of Aladdin in here is that Aladdin was a boy in China? Did you know that? And that the evil wizard, right, is a Moor, and that spoiler alert, he has a twin brother, and it's just very different from the way that we think of Aladdin. And of course, this book is what gives us, the magic carpet and Alibaba and Open Sesame. Open Sesame is in Aladdin, which is pretty cool. And it's an influential book. I'm going to talk about this guy Richard Burton, who translated it, who was an explorer. But enough of that. We'll talk about that later. And also, we're going to be doing a Christmas, pure Christmas movie stream coming up on, let's see, I think Saturday with our friend DPH, David Patrick Harry. And I won't tell you what movies those are yet, but I think you'll enjoy it. This is kind of an annual thing because we did this last year. We've been doing sort of holiday themed streams, right? We did Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus 2. We did the Halloween streams. We've done some scary stuff and, all the usual stuff. But this time we're going to be doing, of course, we did Home Alone and Home Alone 2 recently. And this is going to be a little bit funnier, even though those are, you know, funny movies. Am I freezing? Is the video freezing? It's so what you see is different from here because it either freezes on one end or the other. And this is, of course, the update and the text. But I won't bore you with that. I think we're going to get right into it. I'm going to start off by showing you this classic. Have you guys seen this? This is a classic interview, and you may have seen clips from it. You've probably seen memes from it, but looks like my audio is lagging. That's okay. Whatever. I'll catch up. And yeah, thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Shouts out to Jason out there. Shouts out to Real John Connor who just supported me. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Everybody in the chat right there. I've done a bunch of membership streams recently. They've been movies. I did Leave the World Behind right when it came out, and I think that was pretty good. I did The Killer. That's kind of I've just been doing movie streams over there, and of course I'm doing one right now. And we're going to get back to literature, especially when I get down south. But I thought this would be interesting because if you haven't seen this, I'm going to show it to you now because it's a classic. It's like the source of a bunch of stuff. And we're going to look at it from a few different angles. So let's see if we can get this going without it roboting. So give me a second here. Please like and share, you guys. I know that our friends are also streaming right now. And when our homeboy drops in, I'll add him to it also. So let's see if I can get this going. Yeah. Here we go. All right.
Charles Manson appeared on the Geraldo show on May 9th, 1988. It was the height of tabloid TV, and Geraldo fit into it perfectly. He had
Audio good?
been a probing journalist in his days at ABC from working at their New York City affiliate, and on all the shows, 2020 and Nightline, and all the way until he got canned over making comments about how Kennedy money and influence had squelched a story. He did that Al Capone vault.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. And here we go.
May 9th, 1988.
All right, here we go.
You think I would still be here if I was guilty of anything? And look me in the eye. Look me straight away in the eye. Do I look like I'm guilty about anything?
So first of all, good question, right? Does he? Well, interesting question that he asked right there. And one of the things about this interview is that, first of all, Chaz Manson has his primo Chaz Manson mullet going, right? So there's like eras of Chaz. There's eras of Chaz Manson, and this one is mullet. This is mullet Manson, and it's interesting because notice that one of the things that he does in this interview is like listen to the way that he equivocates and the way that he answers questions, and like that he. It's hard to explain. I'm just going to play it and I'm going to see if you can point out the examples of it here because, and I haven't even mentioned Geraldo yet, but this is 1988. This is the very start of the Geraldo was a shit poster, a clout goblin, he's like pure media ghoul way. I mean, this is before the internet. Like he's total brand, like he's all brand, right? And it's just attention, and it's interesting how these two characters, they're like archetypes, and all of this like it sucks up all this energy, and they're like doing different things, but they're in the same room, and even look at their body language. Like watch the way they talk. Watch.
Look more guilty than anyone I ever looked in the eye in my life.
Really?
Others have killed more, and they've done it more recently. But Charles Manson is a name that has taken its place in American infamy. He is our most notorious mass murderer, and yet he never personally killed anyone. this hippie cult leader, this self-proclaimed antichrist, this evil messiah, convicted of ordering the deaths of 9 innocent men and women. 19 years after his crimes, he remains wacky and weird, fascinating and repugnant. Today's program is a fresh look into the mind of an American monster, Manson.
American Maniacs. American Maniacs. We're here on Highway 666, at a beautiful stretch of the American dream. To some, a great highway across the country. To others, a candy lane of murder and mayhem. Mickey and Mallory, right? So look, Geraldo's got the mullet too. The two guys, they are, they mirror each other in a number of ways. And one thing about this that's crazy is that Geraldo makes these comments about Charlie being like this little goblin, right? but look, it's weird. Look at the physiognomy. And I'm not making like, I'm not saying one is, I'm like not talking about any of the things. I'm just talking about the presentation here.
Sane or psycho? That's our focus today on Geraldo.
Areas such as that I cannot confess to because it would be a lie. I don't remember her being hung.
Accused and ultimately convicted of masterminding that butchery and 2 other murders the following night was this man. Career criminal and con man Charles Manson. Here's Watson on Manson.
I was the male at the crime. But at that time, I did not consider myself a leader. I considered myself more of a follower of Charles Manson.
Is that Tex? That Tex Watson? He looks so different right there than how they present him in the 60s, right? Well, you can't really see because it's just his head. And let's see. Yeah. And he's not like when he's standing up compared to other people, it's crazy, especially that front shot of him walking like in the hallway. Like I guess from the courtroom. But just notice notice Geraldo's language. And he kind of does something similar to what O'Neill says about Bugliosi, right? Which is there's an obvious narrative, and he's obviously Geraldo is like leeching onto the narrative, and he's taking it, and that's obviously after I guess 2 decades become the accepted one. And I'm not even getting into that right now because that was in the last one. What's up, Jamie? There's our friend Jamie. She says remember when Geraldo opened it? Yep, Al Capone safe, and there was nothing in there. LOL. That was that was one of Geraldo's big media events, and that's interesting because it kind of stands for his whole thing. It's like a big presentation and then emptiness on the inside. But at that point, it doesn't matter because it's all media and it's the clout and it's the hype. And that's relevant, especially to Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers, because Stone said in an interview with Charlie Rose, he said that when they made the film, it was a satire, and they intended it to be a satire, early 90s. And then all of a sudden there was this like just blitz of all of this wild, purely American, almost purely 90s stuff in the media, like John Wayne Bobbitt. There was Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan. There was just crazy things. And then he said that like from there, all this stuff like satire will become truth. And that's funny because, well, not like it's not comedic. I'm saying it's interesting because we've talked about that a bunch of times, especially considering Don DeLeo and like all this postmodernism, where postmodernism moves into hyper reality. And Stone even says in that interview, it becomes more than reality. It becomes like more real than real. Isn't that crazy? Like, so again, it's satire becoming hyper reality. And this is an example of that. I don't think I'm making too much of it. This is an example of it because like the two characters, like they're almost not real. These two guys, like they are so well known, at least, to me, and maybe to you, the way that they look, the way that they sound, the sort of like larger than life, legend or charisma, all that stuff. And yet there's this emptiness. There's like this emptiness in the content. So here's Watson.
Carrying out his orders.
While Manson was the evil madman behind the plan, it was his ragtag bunch of followers, Watson and 4 young women, including Susan Atkins, who actually committed the crimes.
Susan Atkins come home to you blood.
Look. You see what I'm saying? This is Wayne Gale. I'm here with Mickey inside the maximum security prison at San Quentin. Look, it's like, so Geraldo, scooped this exclusive interview, right? This is the thing that launches his career before we get Geraldo, Geraldo as the tabloid show, which always deals, weirdly with sort of conspiracy related topics on that early show. And of course, then the event with the chair, you guys, everybody knows that, or if you haven't, it was when a guy got up and tried to strangle another guy affiliated with something on the show. Somebody throws a chair, there's all out brawl, and then we see Geraldo with a broken nose with blood. He makes sure that he's facing the camera. But it's interesting because from there we get, all of the 90s shows like Springer and the sort of staged violence of the talk show. Whereas when you watch the aftermath of that, it's obvious that it's real. There's no security in the thing. Everybody sounds frantic. And he started this whole thing, right? Where, the reality TV, it didn't start reality TV, but I'm saying this and Cops, the show Cops and Fox, early Fox. It's the, TV drama kind of do movie, trying to do movies and stuff, just becomes the real life stuff. And that becomes more interesting. And then it's popcorn for the masses. They just consume it.
Bloody hands. Yeah. He says, Charlie, look what I did for you. Yeah. I give you the world. I just killed myself and I give you the world. So, how'd you react? I say, you dumb I already had the world. You just put me back in jail again.
Can you guys hear it? I mean, the audio is low on the video, so I can't really turn it up much.
That's what she did. She put me right back in jail.
Manson and his followers were tried, convicted, and sentenced to death or life imprisonment without parole. Then in 1972, 3 years after the crimes, the Supreme Court outlawed the death penalty. Now, incredibly, all in the Manson family are eligible for parole.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one of the interesting things, about the whole saga, the ongoing saga, or the post-trial saga that people kind of forget, which is that, he was sentenced to death, but they, he was on death row, but in the sort of course of events, they got rid of the death penalty in California. So he sat there all that time. Right. And also, he was at San Quentin, but he was at various, they moved him to various places. And there are photos of him at other institutions. And that's not a surprise. I mean, O'Neill and McGowan both go into that, which is kind of stuff before, obviously before Cielo Drive happened, because there was Esalen type stuff that happened. In fact, he was near here when he was younger, when he was, I think, a teenager. And also he was at the boys' home, the notorious one, right? With the Nebraska stuff, he was there. He seemed to be in all of these places. And in a way, it sounds kind of like it fits the thing, because he was, institutionalized for 3/4 of his life or something, up until the events happened. Right. He'll discuss that.
At one of his own parole hearings, Manson spoke about his family of killers.
I don't want out of your prison unless I can go with my brothers and sisters. If I have a world and not my family, I have nothing.
Manson's disciples, mostly middle-class, college-age kids, were indeed the only family he could claim. Most of his life had been spent behind bars.
I didn't have no parents. Well, you don't have any parents, you got nobody, there's no place I'm going to take you off the street and throw you somewhere.
Shuttled from foster family to one institution or another, Manson even landed in Boys Town in Omaha, Nebraska.
There you
It was
go.
for him a brief stay. The bright-eyed 14-year-old was thrown out after just 3 days. He was a disciplinary problem.
I've been in jail since 1943.
What year were you born?
34.
9 years old?
Yeah.
What was the first bus for?
The first place?
The first bus?
My mother got out of jail. My mother got out of the joint and put me in with the monks, in with the Catholic monks, the brother monks, there in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Yeah? They treat you bad?
No, they treated me like they treat all the other kids. But I seen them as a bunch of old women. So I ran off and I escaped out of the hood.
Okay, so O'Neill goes specifically into his early childhood and his mom, and of course, like McGowan's great about this because the study of these guys and the like how the the broken psyche and all this stuff that they is the common thread of these notorious characters before you even get into like Phoenix stuff or whatever, is that there's some kind of like psychosexual trauma, right, that occurs, and that apparently like was very young with him. His mom was she was she had to make a living. She was doing those things, I guess, but he was there for that stuff. And then one of the things that he mentioned with the monks was that he was caught. I think this one was in Virginia. He was like at Natural Bridge. He was caught. They said he was caught like creeping basically when he was very young, but that might have been the other way around, or it was just that was the time that they caught it. But that makes sense, obviously, in light of him becoming the leader of the family, which he, is weird as a moniker in itself. And O'Neill sort of goes into have you guys seen that show Mindhunter? Have you seen that? The Netflix one? That one, the scene where they talk to Charlie, they go to the prison and they bring him out, is both like it starts off really good. It's like well done at first. But they ruin it very quickly. And they actually ruin it during the interview on the show for Charlie, like talking to Charlie, because what happens is that when he's coming out, the guy's like, oh, like we're, here comes the king, right? And there's all this noise and there's like, instead of trumpets playing, there's like shackles. And then he comes down the hallway and the guy stands up, right? And like to greet him. And then Charlie, like the guy, like he's going to sit down in the chair. Instead, he sits on the back of the chair. So they're looking up at him like as if he's on some sort of weird throne. But they instantly ruin it because the guy says, we're not here to talk about, the crimes or anything. And we believe, we know that you didn't, like physically do the things that you were convicted of. And then the next sentence, he says, can you tell us about your indoctrination and how you got into this, and tell us about the family and how you, and so at that point, like, of course, Chaz goes into his thing, and he gets frustrated with them. And that's exactly what happens here. Because Geraldo is this creature, right, who wants the scoop. But one of the only interviews I've seen where there's some sort of actual like human connection, if there is one, which is weird considering these two people, is the one with what's the dude's name? Nicholas Schreck, the like 5-hour interview with Manson. He gets some good stuff out of him.
Got out of that hood, went to Chicago.
You weren't raised up at all.
Please. No, I wasn't. I raised
You were
myself
like the
up.
wolf boy.
That's right. I raised myself up.
Wolf boy.
Sure. I got a different way of doing everything. I got my own way, Does that make me bad?
Makes you violent and bad, yeah.
I'm only as violent as I have to be. If I don't have to be violent, I'm not. But I was raised up to where if you didn't fight, you got if you didn't fight, you got taken away and your stuff was taken away. Okay.
All right. So that probably sounds, that could be used as like a soundbite or whatever. He's going to give some like very obvious sound bites for Geraldo later. But in the world now, right, that we're in now. This is not like 1988 anymore. In our current time, don't you feel like what he's saying is true for many people? Like probably not for, maybe not for you, but you can certainly see how that is true. Especially as like the divide keeps happening as the, as the G reset keeps going on. Right. I mean, I know it's true. Like personally, not me, but like, a lot of people go through this sort of thing. It's savage. It's like he's saying, it's, Geraldo did say wolf boy, but a feral child, like he didn't know his dad. It was his mom, and he's like sort of released on the streets very early. I'm not trying to sympathize, obviously. I'm just saying, kind of I guess, I don't know, exploring what he's talking about here.
And I got 40 years of fighting in here. I can't read and write, but I can fight.
He can fight.
They crowd me and I got this little space. My life is bigger than this little space. I live in the desert. I live in the mountains, man. I'm big. My mind is big. But everybody's trying to crowd me down and push me down and make me into all these little things that they need me to be. And that's not me at all, man. That's not me. I killed nobody. I broke no law.
Okay. All right. So, whoa, that's kind of eerie right there. And his imprint is still in the like black screen. That's weird. So, what do you think of that? What do you think? I mean, if you're watching this back then, you would probably think like, this fucking guy. But watching it now, what do you think? After McGowan, O'Neill, what we've seen and read about Bugliosi and these people, and it doesn't have to be like one or the other, right? It's somewhere in the mix of this. But what do you think of what he just said in terms of like talking about his own life? First of all, he can't read and write. Is that true? Oh, I guess he meant it in the, sort of in the past perfect. He couldn't read at the time. I'm sure in all that time, in the like dark windowless cube space, like he's talking about, that he did that because of, he was a 33. I'm a theta clear, man. I can levitate. You remember that? I think that's why he's sitting on the back of that chair in that scene in Mindhunter, right? To sort of signify that he can levitate, man. I didn't like the Beatles, man. I like Bing Crosby. I never had no beard and no long hair, man. I was a beatnik.
What you can't understand, Mr. G, is that I have been raised up in a different world than you've been raised up. I've been raised up in the penitentiary. There's no weakness in the penitentiary. There's no sorrow or remorse in the penitentiary. You come to the cell and you go in and you find Jesus or you don't. You either find Jesus or you run with the devil.
Don't you think Jesus would be appalled that you were
Here we
invoking
go.
his name?
I didn't invoke any name. They put that on me. The spirit laid that over on my track. I'm the man in the mirror, guy.
I know, man.
If you like me, I like you. If you don't like me, I don't like you. You swing at me, I'll swing back. You dig?
Okay, so that the first part of that like is kind of clear, right? He's like, I'm not gonna bother anybody, man. I'm just gonna walk through the street and I'm gonna play music and I'm just gonna talk to people, man. But I'm the man in the mirror, man. I'm all your children. So then he goes into like the like Gnostic pantheon, right? Where he's gonna get into it like in full, right? Where I'm nobody, man. I'm Jesus and Lucifer. That's what I am, man. But what he was saying about like sitting in the cell and that like he's there, but they can't keep him there. So he's in the desert. He's in the, he's in the Arctic. He's everything. He's bigger, man. Is obviously you can see like how that, the wheels turned and how that happened. Right. And I think just on like just a sort of basic practical level, this guy had all this stuff, right? And then he comes out of nowhere. Let's just say, you're in LA or whatever, and he comes out of nowhere and there's this scene happening. And then he shows up and he starts talking to people and he's got this like, Gnostic, like theta Scientological, Grimsby like paradigm thing, and they're all on acid. And you can see where they were like, whoa, edgy, man, right? Like we're all one. Now, I'm not saying that's the only thing, obviously, but just watching the interview, you can sort of see some of that. Can you not?
Cut at me, I'll cut you. You know, whatever you point to me, I'll get back to you.
But it's more than that, though, isn't it, Charlie?
Well, sure, I'm in harmony with God. That's just a word. We don't, you know, we use the word God.
Or the devil.
Oh, the devil. Yeah, you could use the word devil or demons or whatever you want to call it.
Mostly the devil in your world, eh, Charlie?
Well, okay, I'll play. There's no game I can't play.
There are people that say
I haven't played.
you are the devil here.
Okay, I'll be the devil then.
You like that?
I don't like or dislike nothing. I see everything as it is. Your courtrooms have convicted me for being Jesus Christ in one courtroom.
Well,
And then then in the other courtroom, you convicted me for being the devil. Now, if you believe in your own courtrooms, you've convicted me for being the father of this country. We'll say that I am all these things that you think I am.
Right.
Wouldn't that be more fearful than letting me try to be a nice guy? Would you want to make me into those things? Would you want me to? Do you need someone like that in your world? That's your judgment now. The judgment you're making on this mirror, man, you got to carry. You want to make me a terrible, violent, no good, so-and-so, and run, when actually, in reality, I'm a deadhead, man. I've been dead since 1951.
Okay. All right. That part right there. Right. What did you say? I've been dead since 1951. What does that mean? Like what somebody in the chat, give me an example of, explore that. What does that mean? What's he talking about? Right. So like, they talk about this in Bugliosi's book, sort of talks about this, but obviously it's, his whole thing, which is the ego death. Now McGowan goes into this, and we hear about this with cults. Every cult does this, right? Which is the complete destruction of the ego, and that he transcends and becomes somebody else. And what he's talking about there is that, like, if he's locked up for all that time in 1951, right? 1951, he died in 1951 in solitary, and then he, transcends and becomes this other thing, I guess. And at some point he gets out, and then all this stuff happens. And he's going to bring up Tex and the girls later. But it's a weird confluence of events, because when he converges with Tex, it's like the worst possible thing. And obviously there are, moving forces behind all this stuff, and especially in the macro sense, right, with culture creation and everything. But like, it's crazy how these characters come out. I mean, look at them sitting there with the Geraldo Vaporwave logo. Look at him sitting right there. Geraldo loosening his tie. Both got mullets. They're both about the same, kind of the same height. Both like, man spreading big time, right? They're both, it's weird because obviously Charlie like dominates the thing. That's why Geraldo wants him there. But Geraldo is like Wayne Gale, and it's like he needs to be he's also the guy here. He's the pure media like alpha, but they're both like the same sort of thing. Does that make sense? Look at the logo. All right, so let's keep going here.
Is that
The one that I live on.
Do you think that this world, San Quentin, has any relation to the world outside?
This world, San Quentin, is where all the children of God are. This is where you keep all your children that you don't want. The ones that you get to carry the heavy load.
Long hair and
Send us your broken toys. We'll fix them. Right? Isn't that every cult?
sandaled feet. Manson's group on the surface seemed like most other middle-class college-age kids of the 60s. In fact, before meeting Charlie, Patricia Krenwinkel had been a Sunday school teacher. And
holy moly, dude. Oh, whoa. Right. Okay. Like every other middle class, boomer kid in the 60s. Okay. But that's like Robert Plant in a different wig, right?
and planned to become a nun. Tex Watson had been student body president and voted most likely to succeed.
Bro.
Then they met Charlie.
I get out
Oh,
there,
no.
and these kids come around me.
Yeah.
They say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "There's a whole penitentiary of guys like me. And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "There's a whole penitentiary of guys like me. And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "There's a whole penitentiary of guys like me. And I say, "There's a whole penitentiary of guys like me. And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "There's a whole penitentiary of guys like me. And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "There's a whole penitentiary of guys like me. And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "There's a whole penitentiary of guys like me. And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "You're God. You have the voice of God." And I say, "You're God. You You know, I'm nothing. I'm just a messenger. I'm a witness. That's all. I'm just a poop butt that.
Get on the ground here, man. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna draw a map. Right, I'm gonna draw a map of the world. Can you hear me, buddy? Hey, what's up? What's up there?
Yo, what's going
What's
on?
going on? Here we go. Here's Digital Minefield, everybody. Here's Maddie. Everybody give him a hand here. Maddie, Real Cooter Brown, Digital Minefield, our friend who has had me on his show so many times. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
You coming from the Pierce and Pierce stock market Christmas party? Mistletoe alert.
Yeah, mistletoe alert. Have a holly jolly Christmas. No, yeah, I just haven't changed on my work clothes yet. You know, it was a big day at the office of watching Jeopardy and, you know, reading magazines and listening to the Walkman. So yeah, it was you know, it was interesting. I was just what you just said a second ago about the send us your broken toys. I was just watching that documentary it was the HBO documentary about that skinhead Naz-I group.
Dude,
And that's actually
where,
was
yeah,
that?
I can't believe you got that reference. I can't
Yes,
believe
as soon
you
as
got that quote.
I'd heard about that documentary and somebody put it up online. I was like, oh, I've never seen this before. So I watched it. And that guy, that's a direct where he's like, send us your broken toys. And the way it's the guy, I don't know, like just the way he says things is so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of nice here. It's kind of moldy in this basement, I guess. But you know, nice. I wish I could say the quotes from the thing, but there's always a thing in there. There's always a word in there that eliminates that we can't say it.
Yeah, some of that stuff, like
remember the cake? You remember the cake?
Oh yeah, the cake where you got that dude with like the old school camera taking a photo of it, and they're like, "We're gonna have a birthday party for this guy that's been, you know, dead for like what 50 years or whatever it is at that point."
He's got powerful eyes, hypnotic eyes. I know somebody else that's got eyes like that. Don't compare me to that man. Don't you dare compare me.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'm not worthy." The whole thing. I mean, and some of the way, like, obviously the stuff they're saying is terrible, but the way that they edited some of that, like at the beginning, where he's like, you know, he's telling the police officer, like, "Oh, we're just here to have a peaceful demonstration," then immediately cuts to him just like yelling the worst things about people out in the streets.
He's doing a march alone, like on a Tuesday morning in Birmingham. Right? It's crazy. It's like insane. Like this is the guy, right? Look to your left and now look to your right. What a proud group of men.
Yeah. That scene where they go to Georgia, and there's like 5 people out there, and that there's that kid who's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a skinhead," and he doesn't know anything.
Well, they, you know, when they interview the other like guys that were in the thing, it's obvious like it seems obvious like from the beginning that this guy is a creep, right? I mean, a creep in a number of ways, but he's a, you know, capital C creep, right? And he's like, we got sentries posted at every tree, right? And they're getting raided like all the time. It's funny because that is probably the example that they still, you know, it is the example. That's what they still use as the example of the, you know, the deter in this country. And yet at the end of the thing, they're like updating, you know, they're saying, where are they now? And it says for him, I looked him up and it said something like, he is, you know, on his 37th year, right, in federal prison on a, you know, weapons charge. He'll get his trial sometime soon.
Yeah, those are. I think he actually just got out recently. I think I read somewhere that he had gotten out and he was like back managing that same auto parts store he was managing back in like '93.
Yeah, if he went in then and he got out now, it's like you know, it's just time travel. It's a time warp, and I'm sure he's, you know, his state is still the exact same, right? So it's weird with that guy because like, you know, it's like who is the most who's the most R-worded guy, right, in the world? It's this guy. Like it's this guy. Like waking to going to sleep at night, like this guy, that's all he did.
Yes, it's 100% Bill Riccio. It's the guy. I mean,
Yeah.
just the things he says were the things he said and did were so stupid. Like where he's putting on the bulletproof vest, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you don't want people to let you know you're wearing one of these because then they'll just shoot you in the head." And then you see him walking down the street, and he's wearing a T-shirt over it. He obviously is wearing a bulletproof vest under this T-shirt that's like a size too small.
I think one of the funniest parts is like that at the start of it, at the very beginning, there's like usually there's an introduction and they like sort of lead into, meeting this guy. But at the beginning of it, they just give like a 1-sentence introduction and like, they're like, it's 1987 or whatever, Alabama. And that's it. And then they show him and he just like totally takes over the thing. You don't need an introduction. He tells you exactly what he's about, like from the very beginning. Right.
Yes, right out of the gate. It's like he tells you, they just openly tell you like everything they're about. And it basically amounts to doing a march here and there that, like nobody shows up in support of, arguing with, drunk college students in town, and then, just like hanging out of their compound, drinking beer and making cakes for, tiny mustache man. Somebody was asking in the chat, we're talking about the documentary. It's an HBO documentary from 1993 called I think it's called like Skinheads USA. It's on YouTube. It's worth watching. I mean, it's just to see just like the idiocy of some of the things that were going on during that time. But you also get to see one thing that was pretty cool is the band, that show that they go to, because there's a scene where they go to a punk show, and the band was called Vomit Spots. It was playing. They were actually a really good punk band. Yeah, super underground, terrible name, but super underground. It was kind of funny that they wound up at their show. I think they were Birmingham, or maybe they were Tuscaloosa. They were somewhere in Alabama. I saw that, was like, oh, that's kind of interesting that they had to have been there.
I think they're in Birmingham the whole time. This mic is fucking. I'm taking it all down anyway because of the trip. And just non sequitur here. Yeah, everybody. Please think about supporting me. I need some big support here because I'm trying to head out early. I guess tonight or tomorrow morning. The long road trip down south, right? Big time, long road trip that I do twice a year to see the fam for the holidays. And of course, I could really use your support. Big time. I had a big time. I'll say fix up for earlier this week, and I had to do that for the car because you remember last time. Remember, if anybody's been here since then. Remember last time I was headed down to see the fam, lightning bolt symbol on the dashboard, total stoppage of the car, Alabama of all places. Started snowing, never snows. Started snowing, pulled over on the side of the road. And then finally, when I finally got it towed, and the guy, I was getting a ride with the tow truck driver. He goes, glad you broke down here when you did, because we got a tornado made of snow coming up later tonight. We never get those, and that ended up being like, I don't know, a few $1,000s. So, I'm glad I got all got that looked at again before I left, because that sucks. If anybody's had that happen, it absolutely sucks. It's night. Of course, the phone is at a low charge at that exact moment. So anyway, y'all, it's the saga. And so, but also I'll be streaming from down there, from down south on Saturday. I'll be with DPH, David Patrick Harry, and we're doing some Christmas movies. And what do you got coming up? Anything coming up? Maddie, we're not ending right now. I'm just wondering what you got coming up, buddy.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say real quick, I will answer your question, but yes, shout out to Jason getting the links in the chat, folks. Support the channel. And there's so many ways. You got Dono Chat, you got PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. You can do super chats, that's maybe another option. But yeah, Venmo, PayPal, that gets very quickly. You can also get a membership. So I just got one the other day. It's the first YouTube membership I've had. So folks, grab yourself a membership.
Thanks, buddy.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the membership.
Yeah. Definitely. I was in on that member stream the other night. We were talking about the teen shows, and that was a really interesting one. That one was deep. So folks, this is the kind of content you're missing out on if you're not a member. You are missing out But coming up, yeah, I've got an idea for a stream. I'm thinking about doing a, we were just, BLA and I were talking on the phone the other day, and we were talking about, I just watched Wall Street for the first time the other night. I'd never seen it before. And I think I watched it, I don't know, like last week. And I think I've watched it like 3 times since then. And then I watched the sequel, Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, which is also very good. So I've been thinking about doing a whole stream on like sort of talking about, just like Wall Street as an entity, talk about the films, maybe talk about like The Big Short, there's another movie. I can't ever remember the name of it, but it was based on a true story. It had like James Woods and Bill Pullman and a bunch of big name actors in it. That was based on
Trading Places. That's
Trading Places. So I've been thinking about doing something like that. Yes, yeah. So I've got some I'm kind of behind. It's been a minute since I've done a stream, folks. I've been very busy. And so I'm working on maybe doing like a news stream. There's a lot going on in the news, but not that much I've been interested in. But I found a few things I might end up talking about. And then I got a few new books here, so working on that. So
I think it was you. Sorry to interrupt. I think it was you that inspired the Natural Born Killers, because you were talking about Wall Street earlier, and that's Oliver Stone, of course, 1986. Is it 86? I think it's the same year as Platoon, which is crazy. When's Platoon?
I thought Platoon was 87. Let's see. Natural Born Killers was 94.
Yeah, Natural Born Killers was 94.
Platoon was 86. Okay, yeah, you were right.
Platoon, Wall Street, both 86. And then Oliver Stone did JFK and The Doors in 91, both movies, same year, which is crazy, right? And then Natural Born Killers in 94. I saw it in the theater in 94. And it's funny because the people they interview in the movie, like they interview, like, it's man on the street stuff. And one of the guys they interview is actually, what's that guy's name? Jared Harris, Richard Harris's son. He's if you saw him, you would recognize him. He's in the second Sherlock Holmes movie. And anyway, the man on the street stuff is interesting because like the movie really does capture the way that like younger people thought, not literally, but like in a kind of a meta way at the time. And Stone says in one of the interviews that like the first thing he mentions culturally is Beavis and Butthead, which is funny, especially now. But he's talking to Charlie Rose, and he says, yeah, there's been all kinds of, big cultural events, Beavis and Butthead, right? OJ. It's weird to put those together, but it makes sense because, this weird like 90s reality where it was big tabloid, media like had nowhere to go really, because of, Cold War's over. Stone had already done his Vietnam movie, right? He did Platoon, which is like, it's autobiographical. He did Wall Street, which is autobiographical. It's kind of supposed to be his dad's life. He was a Wall Street guy. And, there's big sort of cult of personality characters, right? Have you heard that song, Cult of Personality, Living Color?
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Look in my eyes, right? And you will see. That's a great song.
That is I like that song.
Yeah, it still holds up, right?
Quick.
They're wearing wetsuits.
No, I've actually never seen the video for that one.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
I need to watch that.
They're like a sort of a poppier version of Bad Brains.
Mm-hmm.
They're wearing wetsuits, and the song is so well written, they could never top it, And then
they're like,
In Living Color came out, and I think they had to sue them because it was the same, it was like at the same time.
I will say Bad Brains, much better musicians than Living Color. Those guys, Living Color guys are good, but Bad Brains, they played like hardcore, so it was just like fast and noisy. But those, if you actually listen to what they were doing, they were amazing.
Yeah, DC. Shouts out to Jamie. She drops a super chat and she says, heralded a show called Devil Worship, exposing powerful lies. That's our friend. Exposing Satan's Underground in 1988. It was peak satanic panic era. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. Really appreciate that and bringing that to people's attention. And I was going to show clips from that because is that there's one with Michael Aquino. Is that Geraldo or is that Oprah?
I think he was on Oprah.
Yeah, Oprah had one. And then there's one with Zena LeVay, right? That's the one where everybody says that Taylor Swift is actually Zena LeVay.
Yeah, was that what she went on with Werewolf SS? That band she was in with Nicholas, what was that guy's name?
Is that Nicholas Schreck?
Yeah, she was married to him for a long time.
It's a dude with one ear.
I think so. Yeah, they were in a band. I think it was called Werewolf. Was it Where? No.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was in a band.
Hang on. Let me see. No, I think it was oh gosh, sorry, my computer's not cooperating. Maybe it was Radio Werewolf. That was the name of their band.
I only know that dude from I mentioned it earlier, from the like 5-hour Chaz Manson interview that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they had a correspondence, and that's an interesting one because they get into things that I guess he's more, he would be more aware of than the other people. Right. From being married to Zena LeVay, of course.
Right.
But it's pretty interesting. Do you know the Chaz Manson library of music? Do you know any of his songs?
Yeah. I've listened to some of it. I listened to some of the stuff he did, some of his solo stuff from back in the day, and then he did some of the stuff he did with the family. Like it's called the Family Jams, is the record they did. There was a great song called "Get On Home" on there that I got. I used to play that song all the time.
Is that one of the ones when it's like a bunch of boomers like making noise and just sitting in a circle and because there's there is a lot of that. There's a lot of 60s jangling where you can tell that they thought it was super cool, right?
Oh yeah,
they're all one. And then he's got "Look at Your Game Girl." That's his like big right. Look at your game, girl. And that's the one that Guns N' Roses covered on the Spaghetti Incident.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, the album that sort of kind of killed them because they did like punk covers and stuff on that one. But they couldn't top "Use Your Illusion," right? And then of course grunge had taken over, but that was the like secret song on that. And Axl had worn that "Charlie Don't Surf" shirt in the Estranged music video, and that was sort of it was super edgy and cool at the time for people, I guess. Kind of coincided with this, right? With this, this sort of stuff, and Natural Born Killers.
Speaking of the Charlie music, there was I don't know if you're familiar with Hank Williams III or not. Yeah, he did an interview, or he did. I think it was an episode of I think it was on the episode of Crate Diggers, which was like a show about vinyl records that he did, and he was talking about.
He had that radio show, like something Revolution or something on. He had a radio show for a while.
Did he? He may have. Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That was Shooter Jennings. I'm wrong.
Shooter Jennings. That's right. Yeah, Shooter Jennings did. But Hank 3, I don't know if this is like unreleased. I don't know where he got this from, but he has some. Maybe it's not, and I've never actually looked for it. But he was talking about this vinyl record, and he said he played it for Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys. And he was like, "I'm going to play you this, and I'm not going to tell you who it is." And so he started. It's like a jazz crooner kind of record. He said Jello was like, "Who is this?" She was like, "It's Charles Manson." So apparently Charles Manson did like a jazz crooner type of record that I've never looked for it to see if I could find it, but it's like it's probably terrible, but it might be worth listening to.
We're political. We're gonna go to DC. We're Shriners. You remember that guy? Have you ever heard that guy, Media Monarch? Is it Media Monarch? What's that guy's name? The guy who was with Corbett. He did the Corbett Report for a long time.
Oh, yeah, I know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy. I think it was that guy had like the biggest beef of anyone with Jello Biafra when Karanka happened, because of course, right, he was all in. Jello Biafra was like all in on Karanka. He was like totally. He's kind of like Jesse Ventura, right? He's this like. he's this like, you know, rebel figure to people for a long time, and then like totally went in on the thing.
Yeah, that was a bummer because I mean, the Dead Kennedys now, you know, I don't think you could pay me to listen to them, but I mean, back when Jello was with them, like they were really, really good. I think he's a brilliant songwriter, and that some of his later solo stuff that he did was really good. And
I could never hear him without thinking of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, because I played it like so many times in 99 and 2000. And they have that one song on there.
it was Police Truck, wasn't it? That was the one that was on there, I think.
I don't know. It was like Police Truck.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's probably
Police
the
Truck.
worst song, one of them. That was not a great one.
But
also,
Chaz
I just
Manson,
realized.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just realized I was mixing up Radio Werewolf with Werewolf Women of the SS, which was that Grindhouse trailer Rob Zombie did. When I said Werewolf SS a minute ago, I was like, no, that's not right. It was Radio Werewolf was Xena and Nicholas Schreck's band. And
Dragula.
Yeah.
Dragula. Death Valley 69 in that White Zombie.
Yes,
Death
yeah,
Valley
White
69.
Zombie.
Hey,
the band that basically every record is.
Yeah, it's about Chaz Manson.
Is it really?
Right? Well, 69, and they, you know, that's where Spawn Ranch was, Death Valley.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
It has to be. I did a whole analysis of well, I've totally forgot this, of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Right?
Yeah.
The Tarantino movie. The Tarantino movie that was post what's his name? Weinberg. Which you can obviously see the difference, right, in Tarantino's thing without him. Speaking of that guy, of the Weinstein guys, I was watching Gnome Hyperborea videos today, right? And then I saw an episode of David the Gnome popped up, and the credits in the beginning, I forgot that it was a Miramax Weinstein production of all things. Have you ever seen David the Gnome? Have you ever heard of David the Gnome?
I've heard of it. I'm not terribly familiar. I know that
there's got to be some, you know, based gnomic Hyperborean in the chat who knows David the Gnome, right? Very, very, very based, right? What did Jay say? He said, what, like hobbits are cringe, gnomes are based. Not hobbits, it was somebody. But anyway, so yes, this is giving me so many problems tonight. I did the update right on the computer, and of course, like it wipes everything, gets rid of all the settings.
Of course.
So whatever. All right. So should we continue this? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, I was going to say, I just wanted to mention one thing. I don't want, actually two things. I did not, just to go back to Oliver Stone for a second. I did not know until, I don't know, 2 days ago that he wrote Scarface.
Really?
And yeah, I had no idea. Because I was watching Money Never Sleeps on Amazon, and I paused it for a second, and there was just you know how to have that trivia, and it mentioned that apparently he had written some line, or there was some line in the movie, and Shia LaBeouf had he was like, oh, this line is kind of, you know, repeats itself or whatever, and he said that Oliver Stone told him, he was like, hey, I wrote Scarface, F you. And so
you know what a hassa is, Frank? It's a pig that don't fly straight. I'm not gonna kill you, right? Chichi, get the yayo. It's a great movie, dude. It's a great movie that it's like a B movie that became a cult classic.
Yes.
Right. But it's, you know, I got octopus coming out of my ears, right? It's got F. Murray Abrahams. My favorite scene in that movie is when what's his name? Sosa says, I like you, Tony. There is no lying in you, right? He says, unfortunately, the same cannot be said of your associates. And they, like, the camera, you know, like pans up to the helicopter, like hovering, and Mr. Shickadance. Is it Mr. Shickadance? Is it the guy from Ace Ventura? He's in the movie, but it's one of the dudes, and he's like, he's got F. Murray Abraham, who's like, "Ah," and he, he drops him out of the helicopter. But what's fun? That's not funny. I understand. But what's funny about it is that he was just sitting in the chair next to Tony, and it took like it was like a 3-second conversation, and now he's already up there, right? And Tony's like, okay, I never liked that guy. And that's it.
And I was gonna say it's funny that to go back to the Manson interview is when he was talking about that whole thing about, oh, you swing on me, I'll swing on you, and talking all like crazy. I have met this guy. Like he just ran because I'd never seen this. We were texting earlier. I mentioned I'd never seen this interview before. He is basically like there was one of those guys at basically like any punk or hardcore show I went to growing up. There was like one of those, some like scrawny, squirrely guy who's all, trying to be like, oh, I'm like a tough guy, but I'm cool. Like, I'm not like a tough guy. I'm just like, oh man, if you want to fight, like we'll fight, like one of those types. Yeah. And like this guy, you can find this guy at basically any punk or hardcore show you go to.
Well, you can find this guy at any like I'll say common, public educational institution now. This is like very common.
Yeah.
And it's probably always been common in a sense, but what he sort of expresses here is something that it's funny because there's but there's a part later in the interview where Geraldo always does this. This is why I got beef with Geraldo. Geraldo goes, where I'm from, people do things, they take care of business themselves. And it's funny how Chaz like responds to this because the look that he has and then what he says afterwards is like, dude, it's funny because he sees through his like sort of his Geraldo's attempt at a tough persona, I guess. Geraldo is a guy who obviously, like, he got hit with the chair on live TV. I'm sure he's been in like a ton of fist fights in his life, right? But like, it's also weird that like that probably doesn't really mean anything to him. He would only do that for clout or if there was going to be attention afterwards, I guess, which is his whole thing. But I guess with Charlie, Charlie's like, look, man, you're a dreamer. You're a dreamer, right? That means you're a dreamer. Right, which is very I guess it's very accurate, and a lot of the things that he says are accurate on some other level, like they're truthful, but they're not factual, like in the conversation,
right?
And he's like an expert at being this diabolical guy who's like skirts around the conversation, So he doesn't incriminate himself, I guess, and a bunch of other things. But
which Geraldo, the guy's kind of a dork, but I will say to his credit, he took that chair to the face like a champ. He took the chair right to the face, and did he go down? He might have gone down when he got hit with the chair. I don't remember, but he got back up at least.
There's so much chaos, you can't really like. There's so many people there that you can't really see, him the moment that he gets hit. All you see is like the camera zoom into him standing there with the nose, like blood streaming down his nose, but like there's no security, right? There's no like guys like Jerry, on Jerry Springer, like running out, and even Geraldo has to be like, everybody sit down, because
there's no Steve Wilkos to come in there and start yanking people around.
It's also funny how like that all starts with the guy. The guy says, I think he like drops a hard R, and then the guy stands up and he walks over and he's like, man, why you got to talk to me like that? And then he like reaches and like strangles the guy right in the middle of what he's saying. And it's shocking. But I saw that when it was live because I was with my parents at the Firestone getting the car fixed, and they had a TV by the tires. And I was sitting there and that show was on. And that was the moment. Yeah. I saw it like at the time.
That's
1988.
Yeah.
I was like 8. Yeah. I was like, look at this. And then my parents were like, turn off that trash. And they were right, because it is like ultimate trash.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's show some of this right here. Let me fix this real quick. No. There we go. All right, y'all. You ready? Let's go.
dropped out of the penitentiary. And they seen something in me I didn't see in me.
What they say, John?
They seen a nice guy. And I'm not a nice guy.
I agree.
But they seen that. So I said, well, as long as they seen the nice guy, I'll reflect the nice guy. I'll be the nice guy to them. So I played as much nice guy as they could deal with. And I held the line of nice guy. And I looked out for everybody, and I gave them places to stay, and I kept all the other not-so-nice guys off of them. But I knew Linda Kasabian. I seen her 3 times in my life, maybe 2 minutes in my whole life I seen the broad. She come up to the ranch for about a week, and she said, hey, my name is Linda. I said, oh, Linda. She said, can I stay here? I said, can you stay here? She said, I'd like to live at the ranch. I said, I'd like to live at the ranch. She said, well, can I stay here? I said, can I She says, yeah. And I put my hand up her dress, and I said, yeah.
Oh, boy. Okay, so this part, like, I feel like in that little segment right before this, that it's probably there's a lot of truth to that, right? Like how, you know, he comes, like how they encounter these people, because there's some sort of like organic thing with this, like where there all these people gather at Spawn Ranch and stuff, or whatever. And what happened afterwards is a different matter, but like up to this point where he's frozen in, you know, Chaz Manson face. I didn't know her. I didn't know her, man. She came up. There was, you know, Patricia Cranwinkle, right? Linda Kasabian, you know, Van Houten, all these people, like, and then there's the like crucible play aspect of the like repeating things, and it gets into the like sort of archetypal cult stuff. But it's interesting how it starts. And of course, you know, the sex is like the immediate thing that he brings to mind. And that's like one of the major, you know, aspects of this, obviously. Right. But it's just weird how like you get these little bits of sort of like cogent, you know, talking points from Manson. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think with this clip in particular, because I honestly I don't know. I mean, I sort of know the Manson story. I've never really done a deep dive on his life or anything, or you know, I've listened to like some of JD's streams on him and stuff. But
yeah.
And then I listened to an interview that Chapo Trap House did with Tom O'Neill recently. Well, they did the interview a while back, but I just listened to it recently, and so that was pretty enlightening. But anyway, my point being, what I'm getting at is that this is I think revelatory in the sense that you can kind of see, because people always wonder like, oh, how do people get duped by, you know, obvious like lunatics like this? But you know, for people who may be, you know, like not really deep thinker. I know I'm not trying to be rude here, but you know, just kind of people who may be lost, people kind of looking for some people like, oh, who's this guy? Like you can see how this kind of, and like, you know, we can see exactly what he's doing, but I can see how this sort of would work on people, right? Where, you know, some girl comes up to him and he's just like, oh, I'm going to repeat back to me what you just said. And, you know, could just kind of get people like, wait, what is this guy doing? You can kind of see how people can get pulled in by this and, you know, these kind of games he's running. Maybe because he is kind of a charismatic guy. Like, obviously, you know, he's got a few screws loose, but he is charismatic. You can see why people who may also have a few screws loose might be drawn to somebody like that.
Well, yeah, you can see why like the people at Cielo Drive, right, are all doing their whatever things, and they're all hanging out, and they're with, you know, celebs and all these people, and you know, these empty people, and then this dude comes along, right, and he's like, you know, you guys y'all are living in Malibu, man. You know, it's like we're in the mountains, like we're in the Atlas Mountains, right? And like we're holding up the world and we're far above the grass. Have you ever looked at the grass up close? The grass is smiling at you, man. You can't walk on the grass. I'm here. He just goes. Yeah. Right. And of course, like, you know, he's like, listen, I can get you some blotter, man. Right. And he starts talking about, you know, acid and all this stuff. And then you add that to the mix. And like, that's of course that's bound to happen. Right. In the course of time with this stuff. Then we get all the other elements, which is what Tom O'Neill, I don't know about the Chapo Trap House interview. I haven't heard it, but
yeah, it's, I'm not
does he get into it? Like the specifics of the stuff, like in the book about, you know, his, like the Charlie's like wider contacts, you know, the motorcycle gang, right? The cellmate, who was mob connected, the connected CIA people, there's so many people involved in this damn thing.
He got into some of his connections. He didn't go super deep on it. He talked a lot of it was about kind of his process of writing the book and finding the information and, kind of where he went, who he was talking to, trying to get this from people. But he didn't quite, I mean, it was, it's worth listening to, but I also listened to it while I was driving in traffic. So I probably need to re-listen to it, but yeah, I saw that comment. No, anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent about that, but yeah, I don't. That is something though. The connections is something that, and sometimes not just with him, but other people. You look at people sometimes and see all these people they're connected to. It's like, how do you know all these people? Right. I don't know. That to me is kind of strange. And do my best Charlie dance with Shifty. I don't know if I can do the eyes, but
Charlie knows a lot of people.
He does, and that was something that, and I haven't read Chaos. I have it, I think, down here. Maybe it's in the other.
I know all these people because we're connected in the spider web in the sky, man. Because I'm an astral projector, man. You're a dreamer, but I can dream a past life. It's the future and the past right now, man. It's all there, man. I met you in a dream. I was you. I was in the mirror.
That's pretty good. You got that down pretty good. But yeah, Tom O'Neill, to answer your question, he went into some of the connections, and I think they got into I think they touched on MKO. I need to re-listen to it, honestly, but
well, he was
anyway. I lost my train of thought.
with that free clinic or whatever, and
oh yeah.
And San Francisco.
Yes, because they. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the one that was run, it was this, like a free clinic or whatever, and it was being funded by CIA, and they were doing the experiments. And then, of course, Charlie did. He's connected to Esalen. He's like the second architect. He's like the second Grimsby. What's that guy's name? Arthur Grimsby. The guy. It was the English version of Charlie, like before him. The guy looks exactly like him.
Was it? Or no, that's different.
The Church of the Third Revelation, is that it? It was the same thing, and they had the lady who was like the enforcer, and she had like two Dobermans, and they had a magazine. And that's it. Yeah. Yes.
Cross Church of the Final Judgment. Yeah.
Thank you. What did I say?
Church of the Third Revelation. That's a pretty good name, though. I don't wonder if anybody's taken that.
The Solar Temple, man.
They did talk about the clinic that was that the one that he was like living in LA, and that was one in San Francisco or something like that he was traveling up to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's been all over the place. Where was he born? He was born in like Kentucky or something.
Somewhere like that.
Sort of irrelevant because he's sort of everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He was at Boys Town. He was near here for a little bit. In one of the prisons, he was at San Quentin. He's been in all the prisons. And then by the time he died, like 9/10 of his life was locked up, right?
That's true. Yeah, he spent a large majority of his time in prison, and that was something that they talked about in the interview that Tom O'Neill was talking about, is how he said, when you look at the evidence, it's basically there's no way that it was basically like somebody was keeping Charlie out of jail during the time he was out of jail. Is that it's like he should have been locked up, and somebody was keeping him out of jail. Like there's no way that this was very much intentional. So I was thinking of Vito Paulikis. That was the name when you're talking about the Process Church. That was the guy. I think JD talked about him. That was the guy who he said that Manson was sort of based on.
Well, Manson contributed to their magazine.
Yes, because I think he was tied up with them at one point.
So did Mick Jagger.
That's right, and I think they interviewed like George Clinton. He was on him and Funkadelic. I think were on the cover of their magazine at one point.
This is so hip, man. I mean, Manson had Neil Young says, besides O'Neill, Neil Young talks about him and says that, I knew him. He says, I knew Charlie. Everybody
Really?
knew him. Yeah, he says it. I'll try and find the clip in a second, but he says, no, not only did I come across him, or hear of him, but like I knew him. Everybody was, we knew who he was, and his music. He didn't get his record contract canceled because he was a bad musician, right? That's kind of one of the common things is that what's his name?
Brian Wilson,
Not Brian. No, Dennis Wilson was
Dennis
the guy
Wilson.
yeah, but the producer, the main producer, Doris Day's son. What was the dude's name?
Richard Speck. No, not
No,
Richard
somebody in chat will
Specker.
help me out. He's the main guy. He was the guy that was living in Cielo, and then he moved.
Yeah, somebody in the chat will know. I can't
That
remember.
blonde guy. Yeah.
Speaking of Manson knowing everybody, have you ever heard, David Allen Coe, he claimed at one point to have, this guy's made all kinds of claims, but he claimed he learned to play guitar from Charles Manson while they were in prison together.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he claims. I don't know if it's actually true. I never bothered to fact check it, but yeah, he claims that that's who taught him to play was Charlie.
I mean, he might have.
Very well could have.
What's his name? Heisenberg from Breaking Bad. Have you heard his story? I think everybody's heard that one by now.
I don't think so.
He was talking about his youth growing up in California, I think.
Mhm.
And he said that he was asked about, did he ever see Charlie Manson? And he said, oh, yeah, I saw him. He was at Spawn Ranch. He was doing one of the horse tours.
Huh.
Remember in the Tarantino movie, like Tex is off like leading one of the, tours. They're riding horses and stuff. And what's his face was, Walter White was a kid, like with his brother, I think, and he was on a horse going up a trail. And all of a sudden, like all these, like, cops or whatever, sheriffs started coming down. And there was this big, hullabaloo, as they say. And then in the middle of like a train of people came this like little guy, right, on a horse, and he was handcuffed, and he like went right past him on the trail, and he looked in his eyes, and he looked in his dark hypnotic eyes, and he went off. But everybody with them was saying, oh, they got Charlie. And he was saying, who's Charlie? Yeah, Bryan Cranston. Thank you. Who's Charlie? Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. Oh, Terry Melcher. That was Doris Day's son. Yeah,
Yeah,
I had to look it
Terry
up.
Melcher.
Terry Melcher. I couldn't think of it.
And one of the main points of the Chaos book is that in the testimony that was admitted in evidence, it says that Melcher didn't meet with Manson again after one of the key points, like before the murders, but that like multiple people, even I think Melcher even had spoken to Bugliosi and said that he'd met with him on a few occasions after the murders.
That's
like
interesting.
At Spawn Ranch. So he'd gone there and he met with him. And the problem was that like Bugliosi had like, he'd X'd out the quotes. He'd omitted it, but it was still there. And so when Melcher asked him about it, like that's when Bugliosi like got incredibly aggressive, right? And was like he said he compared the way he acted to, I guess it was very Trumpian in a way, because he was another one of these like sort of Geraldo creatures that was all like Machiavellian and media based, right? And using it for a future political career, I think. Yes,
that's what about Bugliosi is he was basically a performer. He was basically doing an act. That's what the claim some people I've heard people make, is that he was basically just an actor.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if the whole Beatles thing, which makes total sense, like in the narrative, right? And listening to the lyrics, and certainly plays into the conspiracy world aspects of this, is just total. Like like a committee came up with this, or the somebody from Langley came up with this, or if they just heard it, right? If they were like, have you heard the song Piggies, right? Or Rocky Raccoon, right? Or like, or Helter Skelter. And I mean, obviously the words are on the wall and it's a song,
Yeah.
So there's that's a connection that makes sense. But I wonder if it was like one of the like if it was Kasabian or whatever, and she's wrote it on the wall, and that was it, or if like O'Neill points out that Charlie may have gone there after they went there and moved and staged the crime scene, which
That's
was
interesting.
yeah, that's probably the most interesting aspect of this because a couple of people claimed that, including one guy from the like intelligence section of the LAPD that had eyes on him. That Charlie and and this other guy who was a CIA guy and who like was connected with everybody also, but they couldn't, they can't find the guy because he's a shadowy figure. If those two working together had gone back and done that because of the staging aspect is seems to fit into this pretty well, but I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
And that was written on the wall in blood, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah. Now, do you know? Because that's always an interesting thing when that crops up. I was just I was just rewatching American Psycho, and there's that scene in Paul Allen's apartment where he's written "Die yuppie scum" on the wall in blood. So the reason I bring that up is because it's interesting when that kind of thing crops up in media. Do you know if that was kind of the first big instance of a message being left on a wall in blood, or was there? Do you know of anything before that, or did it start with the Manson family?
Good question. Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, that's happened before throughout history, but in terms of like a situation like this, I don't know. I'm sure there's an obvious one. Somebody in chat will probably know of one. There was yes. Remember I covered Jack the Ripper. I covered the guy who wrote the thing about Jack the Ripper, and the guy had written the phrase on the wall in Whitechapel, right? Which was like. All the people freaked out about it. There's a scene in the movie From Hell that illustrates that. Remember, he spells the J word like incorrectly, and they're like, "Oh, this guy must be mentally deficient." And then they figure out like, no, it's a Masonic code or whatever.
You're talking about the Van Damme movie?
The From Hell, the John Depp movie about Jack the Ripper.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that one.
You haven't seen From Hell?
No.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's Alan. Now I can't think of that dude's name. The wizard mage guy.
Alan Moore.
Yeah, Alan Moore From Hell, but it's the film.
Yeah. Okay.
Johnny Depp, and it's a great Jack the Ripper movie. With Ian Holm, who's like the doc. He plays basically William Gull, who's one of the suspects. He was the doctor to Queen Victoria's son. And so the movie shows that it was like a political, elimination to get rid of like any witnesses to the fact that he was syphilitic. And then it's like staged in a ritual, like Masonic ceremony. So there's, it's in the points of a pentagram. And it's like, you are witnessing a great becoming, right? The glittering abyss. And his eyes turn black. He's got the top hat on. It's very well done, very dark.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that one.
But I think that's it wasn't written in blood; it was chalk. But it's still sort of a relevant example. Yeah, Alan Moore. Thank you, Real John Connor. Shouts out to everybody in the chat there. Thank you so much, and thank you to our friend here, Kutsky Digital Minefield. You guys, please go to his channel and subscribe. Please like. Please help me out. Please help me out with the 3 direct ones if you would: PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo if you can. Really appreciate your support. I know it's Christmas time and everybody's tight, but I got to make this trip, dude. I got to get trip money. Got to get some gasoline money, some petro. Hey, you got the snaps on the petro. What movie is that from? What movie is that from, Kuski? Break yourself.
I know this one.
Yo, we're going to twist this cat back. Menace to Society.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was like, I was trying to remember.
Way better than Boys in the Hood. Way better.
I was going to say Belly, but I was like, I know that's not right. I was mixing that up with Menace to Society. What about Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood?
He's got like an RPG. Barbecue sauce on her toes.
Classic.
That's a good movie. Yeah. All right, let's get back to the interview.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
All right.
I like Geraldo's prison squad he's got going on there.
Oh yeah. They're both you know, like spreading their legs in a power position, right? And one's not going to outdo the other. Rolls his sleeves up, right? They're getting on the ground, but wait till the 33rd Blue Diamond Dimension Starseed dance, right? Iconic Manson here. Wait till the dance, you'll see it. Here we go.
Okay, you can stay around. That's the biggest thought in my head was getting at her body. I wasn't thinking about sending her down to be no troops about saving nothing or stopping nothing.
So what they do?
They did whatever they did. That's the dispensation of the Pope. It's the same thing he does with the cardinals, man. It's the same thing they do with the committee.
Did you tell those women to kill somebody?
Dude.
Melcher somebody, someone who reneged on a drug debt?
Hey, let me tell you something about
Tell me something.
The women I don't got to tell them what to do. If I got to tell them what to do, I'll set them up on the highway and get them away from me. I don't deal with women I got to tell them what to do. They know what to do. If they don't know what to do, they better stay away from me.
And in your case, they knew to kill.
They knew to take care of me.
They knew to kill
They
for
knew
you.
to look out for number
They
one.
knew to kill for you.
No, kill.
They knew to kill
See,
pregnant
you kill-
women.
The only guy that cared.
All right, I'm gonna let it run for a second, but I'm gonna come back to that little part. All right, I'm gonna let it run.
You give
for
them a
you
place
guys.
to stay and then you turn them loose.
No, I didn't turn them loose. I turned them loose. Yeah, in respect,
And there's 9 bodies to show for it.
No, there's more than that. They become free in their minds. We started a rebirth movement.
Yeah, a re-death movement.
No, it was a rebirth in Jesus.
Go.
So you got to realize I live in a very violent world. You know, the violence has always been around. I'm in the eye of that, been in it all my life. So I keep it off of me with motions and force fields, dig? In other words, I don't really get involved in that because I don't lie. I've sat in that cell 18 years. If you sit in that cell 2 weeks, you'd be banging your head on the wall.
You're right.
Yeah. You know, so you come and live with yourself in a little old square box for 18 years with everybody getting down on you. And they haven't touched me, man, because I know what I did. I don't break laws. I make laws. I'm the lawmaker. I'm the one that laid the track down. They drive the train. I lay the track. I make the laws. If I take this chair and I knock that light down, I'll make a whole new procedure with it.
Yeah.
I make the laws from here. This is me. Nixon was only playing with me. That's me. Now, I admit I influenced everybody out there at that ranch. I take responsibility for those 9 people getting killed.
Do you feel remorse?
I don't know what that is.
You know what I think?
Okay.
That you are an evil person.
Right, I'm evil. I'm terrible.
You are,
Oh,
Charlie.
yeah, I'm awful. I'm awful.
You're a murdering dog,
Oh,
Charlie.
I'm a terrible dog. I'm a fiend.
You're a mass murdering
A
dog.
mass murdering dog. And where did you get these ideas?
What if I said, Charlie, your physical being is free as of right now? You go outside the gate, your body, where would you go? What would you do?
Go probably look for a place to sit down.
What would you do?
I give you anything I got for a little peace of mind.
Oh,
Is he not?
And you're either going to have to give me my rights in a courtroom or you're going to have no courtroom.
Why?
Okay.
You're going to have
okay. Okay.
I just want to
Okay.
say this is one of the reasons why Geraldo is terrible, because when you go to interview somebody, even if you think the person is terrible and you hate everything they stand for, you don't. If you're like to go on there in some kind of moral crusade and then sit there and preach to them, be like, "Oh, you're evil. I think you're an evil murdering dog." I mean, it's so corny. It's just like this. Just I don't know. That to me, it shows. This may not make sense to people. I don't know. It makes sense to me. To me, it's just crazy that you're supposed to go in there. And I don't believe in total objectivity. I don't think it's possible. But to go in there on some kind of moral crusades, you can grandstand in front of your audience and everybody can clap, be like, "Oh, he's such a good person. He told, this lunatic he's evil." I mean, it's so performative, and I don't know. I think anybody can see right through it.
It's for sound bites, right? It's first of all,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
right. It's for clips, and this is why Geraldo is like the proto internet, goblin, right? He's the guy who it like he's very good at this, isn't he? He's very good at saying things that he knows. It's like he scripted them, but he's saying him, IRL, right? And he knows that those are the things that he's going to clip. It's the same as Wayne Gale in Natural Born Killers. Like there's a part in the movie where Robert Downey Jr., who plays this character, is in the editing room, and it's for his show American Maniacs. Charles Manson, Charles Whitman, Richard Ramirez, and he's interviewing somebody. It might be before Mickey, but they're editing the interview, and the editor is like, "Look, this part doesn't like work right here," and he's like, "Listen, it doesn't matter, right? It's repetition. It's all repetition." And he uses a few like key words, and he says, "You think those twisted Skittles eating, normies out there in their pods, basically, care about? They're all stupid. Like they don't, they just consume. It's a repetition that matters." So in other words, it's like a sequence of things like that are programming them in his way that are all geared towards his own fame and the thing, right? The media consumption. And what's crazy is that now in hindsight, like you can really see that Geraldo like is one of the key figures who like he really made this stuff. He really like a lot of the internet stuff is like the origin you can see is in things like, this interview, right? This is like is tabloid journalism of the 80s when they had like Inside Edition, right? Remember Bill O'Reilly, Inside Edition, Hard Copy, right? All these shows, which were like very entertaining. They were very good, and entertaining. And they're all about like conspiracy stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. They're all like wild topics. And they never show that stuff anymore. There's only, stuff here that shows that. And it kind of shows like the over the window, like how far people have gone over. But Geraldo's sitting there, and one of the things that he just said was, let's say that, you're sitting here and, your mind is free, right? And then you can go outside, which is weird because the beginning of that question is like, that's Charlie's language, right? Which is,
yeah.
I'm sitting here, man, and my body is, I'm on a prison planet. And my body is, I'm locked up in a cage, but my mind is free, man. I'm with Saturn. Right. And it's like almost esoteric language, but then it's like this, it's this fake judgment thing. And who couldn't see through Geraldo doing this? I mean, in a way, he's so like, it's so repugnant because it's like, what is this guy supposed to be the good guy in this interview? And he looks somehow even worse.
Yes,
right?
100%. He somehow manages to make Manson look good.
Yeah. But the part that I thought was the key part was when he asked him, did you do it? Right. And he's able to, again, like skirt around the answer, but still give some truth. But like he never says the actual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kill him? Did you kill anybody? I killed 9 pigs, man. There were hog bodies, all over the farm. So they're like, oh yeah. He said yes. But is he saying that he sees that as a metaphor, or is there a deeper figurative meaning to this that, in Charlie's like mind that he's saying, is he telling us something, or is this like, is this just insane, crazy talk? Right.
Yeah. And that's something that it kind of makes me wonder if, obviously Manson had a few screws loose, but watching this interview, because like I said, I never really watched much with Manson, but it kind of makes me wonder if he was more there than perhaps I'd initially thought, because he's sort of, yeah, so you said he's kind of responding. He's responding to what Geraldo is saying, and it's in a very kind of deliberate sort of way. But again, he's kind of like skirting what he's actually saying, and he's sort of he's kind of giving hints towards it's like he said, oh, you kill him, I killed 9 pigs or whatever, and so there's sort of a response there, but he's very quick. At least I don't, he may not be smart or sharp necessarily, but he's definitely quick, and there is I don't know, maybe it's just the gift of gab, like you're kind of alluding to earlier, where he can just kind of go and go and go and go and go. But
he's definitely part confidence man. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah, there is confidence, but it's not like if you've ever had a conversation with like a crazy homeless person where it's just total nonsense, and you might say something and it's like they're just talking, they go off somewhere totally different that has absolutely nothing to do with what you were talking about. So there is some lucidity there for sure.
Yeah, there was this guy back around the Big Nine when I was in Belfast that was like that. And he'd be walking home and he'd always be like on the street corner or whatever. And you walk by and be like, hey, how you doing? You'd be like, hi, how you doing? And he'd be like, yeah, did you know that he called him George? He said, did you know that George Bush did the thing? He did the thing with the tars. Did you know that? And you're like, all right, man. And then he would go into like talking about, he'd be like, yeah, Saturn and Jupiter are aligned. It's crazy. But then he would give you like a couple of things in there that actually in the long run turned out to be accurate, right? Which were certain elements of Big Nine that happened.
Yeah.
But like you'd be like, right, I'm going, I live right by the river. I live on a rock. It's a rock in the middle of the Lagan River. I'm a gnome. I've got a house there. I'm 6 inches tall. But then he would tell you like flight numbers and, people on flights, right? Like some sort of like, mad creature. I think that one of the things with Charlie is that, he's certainly diabolical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Norm, of all people, has a great take on him. He said that he was watching the Diane Sawyer interview, and that she says, yeah, but why did you kill those people? And he says, I didn't kill anybody, man. And she says, yeah, but you told them to. And he says, well, listen, man, why don't you fly to New York, right? Why don't you get on a plane? Don't buy a ticket. Just get on a plane, fly to New York. And when you get there and they ask for the money, say, oh, well, Charlie sent me. Which it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And then whoever he's talking to says, wow, he was very smart. And Norm says, I don't know about smart. I mean, he also said, my mother's Eisenhower and my father's an icebox.
Reminds me of the classic Tom Waits quote where he's like, my father was an exhaust manifold and my mother was a tree.
Right. Well, yes, there you go.
Probably a nod to that. I'm going to grab some more Perrier and lemon juice. I'll be back in a second.
All right, I'm going to keep playing.
You have to give me my rights.
I heard that already. Murder.
Why
is it so common?
Because you're out of balance. Your social consciousness is out of balance.
Don't give me that line, please.
The premise of your reality sets in the judges' benches, man. The judges' benches represent crime. The police they do the will of the judge. The attorney general does the will of that. The governor does the will of that, all the way up through the Pentagon, all the way up to where the bombs drop off on the rice farmers. It all starts down here in the courtroom.
Is it easy to take a life?
I never took anybody's life.
Is it easy to stick a knife in somebody's body?
I generally don't stick people. I cut them a couple times first and make them show them that I can, but I've never really stuck anybody, not stuck my knife in them. I cut them a couple times, show them I could, and then tell them, don't make me do this no more.
Help me understand something, Charlie. Why do people murder? Why did those girls murder for you? Why did Tex Watson murder for you?
Me?
You told them to.
No. Come back, DA. Come back. That's not reality.
What is?
Okay, the part that he just said, right? You see how he like skirts guilt on there. But the part that he said right there applies to who's the guy? It was the guy that was it Gary Hinman? It was the guy that he apparently Charlie, like they were trying to collect on a drug transaction, right? That had to do with that motorcycle gang, the Straight Satans that Charlie was like affiliated with because they were like moving acid, I think. And like in large amounts and all this other stuff. And anyway, they were trying to collect on it and they couldn't. And then Charlie went over there and at least this is what the books say, even the O'Neill book. And Charlie went over there with a sword and like cut the guy's ear off or something. And he was in there for 3 days. And then I think that I might be confusing a bunch of things, but that's the guy that Bobby Beausoleil, right, was convicted of killing. And Bobby Beausoleil is the guy who is in, he's still in jail. He's still in prison. I think he was up for parole recently. But, he keeps getting denied. He also is a musician, and he's the guy that was in the Kenneth Anger movie, Lucifer Rising, right? He's in a couple of Kenneth Anger things. And then Kenneth Anger put like a hex on him, on Bobby Beausoleil. But that's what he's referring to there, right? Was the cutting episode. But notice how again he skirts around this stuff, right?
No, reality is they did what they did. They're responsible for their own actions. I'm responsible for my actions.
Ever kill anybody?
I've come off a close a few times.
Come on, didn't you, Charlie?
What do you mean, come on, didn't you, man? I ain't lying to you. If you think I'm lying to you, you're wasting my time and your time.
Okay, let's not lie. Let's be
There's
cool.
no reason
Let's
to.
be straight.
There's no reason.
What are you guilty of then?
I'm guilty.
Dude, right? Right? It's crazy, right?
But this is interesting because this is, when he's like, okay, well, let's not lie. Like, what are you guilty of? I mean, this really, you can kind of see how he sort of like, and maybe there was somebody before him, but this sort of prototype where journalists, particularly journalists on TV, their profession becomes a moral crusade. Right? It's not about like, oh, let's uncover the truth, let's challenge power. It's just entertainment, and getting on their moral high horse about things, and that's exactly what we see Geraldo doing there.
Yeah, isn't that what like every interview is, especially now?
Oh,
you
100%.
mentioned earlier, that there was no like total objectivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is a great example of that. I mean, at the time, that was the thing about it was that it was pure tabloid or whatever, but it was what sold. Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, like even Geraldo's questions are like non sequitur, like it's like it's almost like he's lost in this, but you know what he's doing here. But it's funny how Charlie like, and again, I'm not sympathizing in any way with any of this, right? We're just talking about the presentation of this, and I think it's interesting because like this is again one of those interviews that's been absorbed into the zeitgeist, but that a lot of people haven't seen, or at least seen in a long time. So, all right, shall I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna keep playing here.
What am I guilty of? I'm guilty of thinking that I had rights in a courtroom. That's what I'm guilty of thinking.
There you go.
You left a trail of dead bodies.
I have a trail of
Come
dead
on,
bodies,
Charlie,
man.
stop hitting me.
Okay,
Really?
okay.
You're a damn evil person and you're a murderer.
Come on, feel it.
No, I mean, I get pissed off, man. I can play, but I get pissed off,
Get
man.
him, Ghost.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes. Let the hate flow through you.
I don't think really I think that belongs to
Yeah,
God.
Geraldo's just playing bad cop here.
Explain.
God gives life and God takes life.
Okay.
But how come you didn't live your life with that commandment?
I did.
That's not what I heard.
Well, that's what you heard. It's a little difference from what you heard and what is.
Do you feel fortunate that you survived because the law is declared
There was no doubt in
unconstitutional?
my mind I would survive. I'm in harmony with the truth. I didn't kill anyone.
Okay. All right. Yes. Yeah.
And
Survivor.
I'm going to chop up some more, you.
Oh. All right.
Oof.
See, there you go. There's a soundbite. Yeah, Survivor. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that. I guess that he is.
Yeah.
Or was. He when did he die? A couple of years ago.
think it was
Past couple-
2019. I think 2017, 2019, something like that.
But he was old. I mean, he was
Yeah.
an old fella. He'd gotten, married maybe a couple of times. I know that he was, cut up in a couple of times. And he was even, I think he was like someone like threw acid on him or something like that and tried to burn him, but he was still around. And he's got a son. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Was that with
he's
the woman he married a few years before he died?
Yeah. No, this guy it was Mary Bruner. It was this girl, Mary Bruner. I think that's her mom. And it was around this time because he's an older guy now. And he doesn't have the last name. She took him away. He was raised by, his mom and I think her parents. And he was very young. He never knew about any of this stuff. And he learned that, Chaz was his dad like way later on. But he said, I read an interview with him and he said that he learned about it when he was in, I think, maybe high school. And one of his classmates came up to him and was like, yeah, your dad's Charles Manson. And he was like, I don't know who that is. And then he learned about it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was, fortunately, like there was, he was raised, I guess, as normal as possible, considering the circumstances. But I looked into like, where are they now? What's he doing? And he was in the military. And then it said that he'd done a long time as a defense contractor abroad.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So he doesn't specify, but I think he was in some sort of special unit and then he became a contractor, which, what that sort of can entail. I mean, that's speculation. He doesn't say it specifically, but it's interesting. Thank you. Shouts out to Real John Connor, who says Manson died 2017. Yes. Thank you, everybody in chat. Really appreciate you. Everybody, please smash the like. We're going through this Geraldo interview. There's a couple of them. I know we're kind of, going through this, pretty deliberately. And I haven't even gotten to any sort of substantive natural born killers analysis yet. So I'm going to try to get to that. It feels like Friday to me because now I'm on the vacay. Today was my last day, but I know it's midweek. And again, if you want to support me, you can do that through the links that the homeboys are dropping there in the chat. They're in the video description. I really appreciate it. Every little bit gets me another gallon of gasoline to get on this trip down south.
Yes, folks, support the channel if you can. Again, I know times are tough out there for everybody, but yes, if you can, throw a few dollars towards the Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Grab a membership. There's probably 5 or 6 different ways to support the channel. So yeah, definitely, support the community, help everybody out as much as you can.
Those main 3 are the best ones because they get to me directly and I can put them straight in the tank. I know I got to fill up three total times to get this 900 miles one day.
Dang.
Yeah.
You doing just a straight shot?
Yep. Straight shot. Straight on the special route to where I'm going is what I'll say.
Nice.
All right. So this is also hard to deal with because I don't have multiple screens and I got to keep going over here to this tab. So I'm sorry if it's a little choppy, but here we go.
I'm going to kill you as many as I can. I'm going to pile you up to the sky. I figured about 50 million. If I could get about 50 million of you, I might be able to save my trees and my air and my water and my wildlife.
You want to kill 50 million people?
Well, that's just a drop in the bucket to what's really coming.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're going to die in prison.
Last segment.
Die in prison. Boy, oh boy.
You're going to die
again. There you go. You got to die in your mind. My life is not important, man.
I want to know about your life here.
My life here is just sitting in a cell.
How you treated here?
I'm treated here differently on different levels. The first level is pretty good. The younger men, but there's a lot of good ones. It's like any other place, man. There's good and there's bad.
You seem to abuse the correction officers, though.
I do. I get off on them something terrible, and they get off on me something terrible. I've had my teeth knocked out.
But don't you make your life miserable by being that hostile?
Man, I don't know what misery is. What the hell ever meant? That's weakness. I ain't got no misery in me.
Got any friends here?
Paradise, man. If I was guilty of something, and after all the pressure they put on me, and they put the medication on me, and all the doctors and drug me up down the hallways and done everything they could do to kill me.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was about to come off mute. Yeah, that I think that's no. Again, I think we have to take everything he says with a health, a nice healthy pinch of salt. But that I think he very well is probably onto something with that. That is probably accurate. I would guess.
Yeah. The book goes into like electroshock and MK Ultra stuff and Esalen and all that. And I'm not sure about later on and after this. I've seen the pictures of him like playing guitar in the grass, which it looks like he's on vacation somewhere. But it was, I think that he went back to Esalen after this. But I can't, it's like there's so much stuff. And then the O'Neill book is about this. Like there's so much information, but the problem is sifting through all the bullshit, right? And that's purposeful. I mean, there's levels and levels and levels of all this stuff. Just like somebody said, he's on all levels. Yeah, he's like he hits every single fucking level of this shit, right? And he's part Gnostic, he's part Satanist, he's part, like charismatic, country preacher. He's part environmentalist. And that was his big thing later, was like, that became his sort of like his religion in some points was like the religion of nature. And that's interesting also because that seems to be the natural progression of anyone in this whole movement, like as a general statement, right? Which is that, the worship of nature ends up being, the no people. But
Yeah, I mean
know.
that is sort of a. I thought I pulled this.
I'm
book
whatever
up.
you need me to be, man.
Well,
Look in the reflection in the pond, man. That's where you see me, right next to Mount Rainier. I'm as big as a volcano, man, but I'm peaceful.
Yeah, that's something Jerry and I talked about. We did a stream on talking about all like the environmental kind of radicals and how a lot of that environmentalism now most people there's basically an advocacy for human extinction, and most people say, oh no, it's a consensual non-violent, it's where everybody just stops breeding and then eventually humans will die out. It's like, oh well, we have to have it's like, oh well, we have to off everybody so that human activity and climate change doesn't off all of us, right? And that's ultimately what it comes down to is the destruction of humanity. Now some people are just like him, are like, oh yeah, 50 million, yeah, that's a good start, or whatever he said. Ultimately the kind of weird kind of crazy environment. And, I'm all for protecting the earth and, not polluting and things like that, not littering. But yeah, when it comes down to it, a lot of it is, just get rid of everybody. There's a real kind of violent streak that's baked into a lot of that.
Mistletoe alert. I saw a tie-dye Manson shirt on eBay, almost got it, but it was too big for me. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that, and actually that is exactly what Natural Born Killers is about, right? Is this sort of the transference of like these big figures and these sort of cult of personality people into like consumer pop culture, and then that is moved obviously into like weird, hyper reality. I mean, when they showed the clip of the family girls like walking through the halls of the courtroom, maybe it's just because I've seen the clip so many times, but it looks like a movie. It doesn't look real. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm saying that it's they look like the exact vision of what you think these people would look like, right? And I think that's part of it. That was certainly why they ended up like when they all shaved their heads and they were sitting on the street corner, and then they all did the Charlie, the thing on his forehead started off as an X, right? He X'd out of society, which is interesting because of Jamie's done so many talks on X symbolism, right? And the big X thing, communication wise. And And that's like the exact reason that Charlie did the thing in the first place. So, reality and media and appearance all sort of like mirroring each other and going back and forth. I'm probably going way too far with that, but
no, but I mean, I think that's a good
look at
point.
the subject matter, right?
Yeah, because she's talked a lot about the the symbolism we see with the X, with the X-Files. Now, granted, that's in a circle, the X-Files and the X-Men, but people say that's people who are serious about this, kind of stuff, they'll say like, oh no, that's the actual mark of the beast. Like that's sort of the mark of, Satan, the Antichrist, is that X in the circle. And I don't know all the specifics about kind of the ins and outs and where that symbol comes from, but I think she's the one I've heard talk about that.
Yeah. X is it's a cross.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
St. Andrew's cross. X never, ever marks the spot, Indiana Jones says, and then finds the entrance to the underground crypt in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade at the X. Right, he goes through the Roman numerals and finds that. So, but then of course it became what it is right there.
This whole country down on me, trying to murder me for all kinds of different, everything they don't understand, what they don't know, what they can't realize, every little insecurity they got. Here they come, bringing it to me. Okay,
all right, that like is just one bit, but that's true in that part of the the trial was so messed up. This is the longest trial in American history until, of course, McMartin and then OJ, right? It was like 9 months. And it was, they tried to get a mistrial because Nixon commented on the trial and said, this guy's definitely guilty. Right. And so what he's saying here is that, especially in the 60s with all of the chaos in the 60s, that he became the sort of focal point of all this stuff. Now that is not to say that he didn't do the things, right? I mean, it's not, either or. It's like there's a whole system of events that happen. But what he just said right there is probably pretty true. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I didn't realize the trial lasted 9 months though. That's
yeah.
I knew it was long. I thought it was like 4 or 5 months. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, also another thing is that when Geraldo said, why do you like berate the guards and all that? Why are you so mean to them? That's addressed in, actually, Bugliosi addresses that in Helter Skelter in his book, and Tom O'Neill talks about it. They say that Charlie had like this performance aspect. Obviously, I'm gonna show a clip from the Diane Sawyer thing because this is a great example of this. Where when he entered like the sphere of the courtroom, it's like a stage, and he put on this this persona thing. But then as soon as he got back into the holding cell and they handcuffed him and everything, he went right back into like, he was very like, he'd be like, all right, Bob, so you get your morning coffee. That's very good. How are your kids doing? Which, is also like a sort of dissociative thing. Right. But it was almost like even Bugliosi's opinion was that when he went back there, that like sort of revealed who he must be when he's not on the stage. So it's funny that Geraldo brings that out, but has like no awareness of that aspect. And actually, you don't even see any examples of what Geraldo just said in the interviews. He's not like, he doesn't shout at the guards or, berate them or anything. He goes through the routine, I guess, because he's used to it his whole life.
Yeah, I mean, he's really been like oddly kind of, I don't know about respectful, but anyway, I mean, he's kind of been, I think it seems like he's kind of been antagonizing Geraldo. I mean, pretty obviously, but yeah, he's not, it's not like that kind of, sort of violent outburst.
He's sitting there uncuffed and free.
Yeah, that's another good point.
Around this room.
Because if he is such a, you think he would be like, Hannibal Lecter in the, strapped to the dolly with the, face mask on and everything. If this guy is actually,
hello,
and I don't, maybe
Dr. Lecter. I played a streetwalker and Taxi Driver. Have you seen that movie, Dr. Lecter?
Maybe this is just Geraldo trying to like appear tough. That I'm no, he doesn't have to be in shackles or handcuffs. I'm gonna be in here and I'm gonna confront him with no restraint. I mean, who knows? But I wouldn't put it past Geraldo to do something like that to try to appear tougher than he actually is.
Yeah. Well, there's one part where Charlie says, "Man, I'm just sitting here. I could reach over and beat you to death with that chair right there, man. I could end the whole world, but I'm not. I'm just sitting here." It's like, whoa, dude. Whoa. Right. But there are guards, in the background.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Yeah, Kid says, how could you not antagonize him? Geraldo was such an easy mark. Yes, I would agree with that.
Carried on my back. Do you think I would still be here if I was guilty of anything? And look me in the eye. Look me straight away in the eye. Do I look like I'm guilty about anything?
You look more guilty than anyone I ever looked in the eye in my life.
Really? Yeah, you see what I'm saying? In other words, the guys you're trying to make me into is impossible. What you're doing is you're creating a legend, you're creating a beast, you're creating whatever you are judging yourselves with into the word Manson. And that's not me at all.
You're not a...
Okay, so just as a thought, I mean, what if, and I'm not saying this is true, but like, what if this is all, what if like what he's saying is just like legitimately true? What if like that's what Charlie is saying is that, just he never did anything. He wasn't involved in this at all. Right. And it was all just put on him because it would be crazy. Right. Because then after all this happened, of course, he would be even worse. Right. And he would go into all this stuff. But of course, the legend and all that stuff and elevating him is partly his point. That's what he wants. But, yeah, this isn't this insane?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not insane. I'm saying it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's that is something I've thought about before. Is what if he didn't hate? I mean, I think it's pretty clear it had something to do with it, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that he had absolutely nothing to do with any of this. Yeah, I mean, he had the cult and all that, but he never actually he wasn't actually guilty of anything, and it's interesting because it's like the longer it goes on, the more I'm listening to what Charlie's saying, and it's like, wait, what did he just say? It like becomes more, and it becomes harder and harder to follow and to kind of absorb the longer it goes on.
Lito says this is the kind of interview where you're not quite sure who the puppet master is, but I feel Geraldo getting played.
Mm-hmm.
Or Geraldo wants that, right? He's inviting that for the clicks or for the TV,
The beast, Charlie. You are a beast.
I'm whatever you need me to be for you. And whatever you make me is what you'll carry the rest of your life and forever.
You named yourself, Charlie.
No. You don't even know what that means.
I know what it means.
They've been trying to kill me for 20 years. They haven't been able to do it yet. Would you like to try?
Boy.
Charlie.
All right, last segment.
You didn't bring the guitar.
They wouldn't let us.
They wouldn't let you.
We brought it, but they wouldn't
These
let us
locks
bring
work
it.
for you, man. Hey. Damn,
Still.
I don't want to pick on you. Still don't communicate. Hey, we talked about what I did. You want to talk about what I
Look at that. Hold on.
I can do just about
Hold on.
guitar.
They wouldn't let us.
They
Look at
wouldn't
the
let
credits.
We brought it, but they
you.
wouldn't
These
let us
locks
bring
work
it.
for you, man. Hey. Damn, I don't want to pick on
Still
you.
don't.
Oh, exposed. Look at the producers. Exposed. Okay. All right, hold on.
Communicate.
Put that on the IMDb page.
We talked about what I did. You want to talk about what I could do? I could do just about anything I want on my road. I could send for your head and put it in a box if I wanted. I would.
Vaporwave logo.
But I could, just like you could too.
The ominous music.
Hold on, it's not over yet. Dark chaos. Hold on. Oh
Thanks for
man, there was the
watching.
part with
If
the
you like
phone
what you
number.
saw in Cleveland,
There was a part with the phone number.
Whose number?
Did I miss it? It was the phone number. Did I miss the part with the phone number for transcripts? For transcripts of this interview, call. It said like for transcripts of this interview, call this number, and it was like Video Entertainment Network. Put subject line murder. Maybe it was in another one because I wanted to call the number. Yeah, I think it was in another one. I was gonna call the number and be like, "Hey, hi, this is Al Bielek. I'm calling from a ship. I got on in Philadelphia, but now I'm in the future and the past. I wanted to let you know that, Geraldo. We know about Bette Midler. Have you heard that?
No, what is this about Bette Midler?
Probably can't play it, but anybody can find it. You can find it. There's a thing with Bette Midler being interviewed by Barbara Walters, and she says, see if I can play it on. Nah, I probably shouldn't play it. She says, Geraldo in 1970, Geraldo and his producer put me into a closet, and they had poppers, and then things ensue. And she says this like right in the interview, which was brought up again a few years ago when the movement happened, and Geraldo was defending Matt Lauer, right? Remember Matt Lauer was
Yeah, because he had
canceled.
he had that button under his desk where like lock people in the room.
Right, yeah, and Geraldo was defending him, and then Bette Midler came back out again. I think it was on Twitter, and she was like, "Not so fast, Geraldo. Do you remember this?" But it's funny because she talked about it on Barbara Walters in like 1990.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just a thing to throw out there. But
I didn't hear anything about that. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, Geraldo always struck me as. I'm not accusing him of doing anything illegal, but he seems like the type who would at least defend people who would do that type of thing.
Have you seen when Alex confronted him that time on the street?
A long time ago.
Yeah. Geraldo's like walking down the street, with his Starbucks or whatever, and AJ comes out of nowhere. He's like, "You're a fake and a fraud." It's not that guy. It's not the same one, but he confronts him about it, and Geraldo doesn't really. I can't remember the specifics, but he doesn't really give him the time of day. They kind of go back and forth, but AJ is not disingenuous in the confrontation.
Right.
And then later Geraldo said a lot of stuff. And of course, Geraldo is, like his, I think people are like, look, this guy's like some sort of Chicago, like liberal or something, right? He's like a boomer, all this stuff. But I think in the end, it's just his own sort of Machiavellian ideology, right? Which is, totally centered around obviously like the sort of proto clout that he has. He's like a creature.
Yeah.
Right. Should we, I'm not going to play this whole Oliver Stone interview. I'm probably going to skip that one. But if you want to watch the Oliver Stone interview on Natural Born Killers, that is a good one. It's, Charlie Rose from back in the day. And what he talks about in that one is basically that where, he gives probably the best like exegesis of his own film that I've heard a director give. Because he talks about the work like objectively, which is very unique. And he gives the reasons for like making the film. First of all, he wanted to make like a prison movie because he finds it fascinating. That's been in a lot of his films. There's always like prison scenes in his films. There's even one in Scarface. There's one in what's the movie? What's the one that has the Marauder soundtrack? Where the guy's in prison in Turkey. He gets caught with weed. He's like trying to traffic weed. What do you call that?
I know the movie you're talking. I can't think of.
Oliver Stone wrote it. What's it called? Midnight Express.
Midnight Express. That's right.
Midnight Express. As a prison movie. JFK has that scene with Kevin Bacon. You're a good looking man, Mr. Garrison. Right. There's always
Wall Street never. Money Never Sleeps starts with Gordon Gekko getting out of prison.
Yeah,
and then it ends with the first one ends with Bud Fox on an endless way to get sentenced.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Platoon is interesting because, it's not, they're outside the whole time. It's exterior, but in a way there's a prison element about it. Because of like when he goes in, the two camps are like sort of differentiated. There's the guys drinking and then the guys like, smoking weed or whatever. And it's like a kind of prison, right? Because the guy, Charlie Sheen, like is sort of forced into these like underground things, which is supposed to mirror the tunnels, right, of the Viet Cong in a way. But the events that go on in the movie are supposed to be prison-like, so he can escape those. What else? I can't think of later Oliver Stone movies. There's the football one, Any Given Sunday, which was a surprise to me when it came out that he would make that film.
Oh, I forgot he made that one.
Yeah, he wanted to make that because he does like American themes and things that like sort of drive culture and have a kind of religious aspect to them. So he makes that a huge hype movie with Jamie Foxx. And that's it's a decent movie. There's too much music in it. There's music in every scene, kind of like Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah.
But have you seen Natural Born Killers?
I saw it one time. Probably been, 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I I used to watch that movie on Christmas night after the Christmas party, and my dad would come in and go, "What are you watching?" I'd be like, "It's Natural Born Killers, of course." You turn that off. Weird. Have you guys seen it in chat? Natural Born Killers is a great movie. It's a great satire. It's a classic Woody Harrelson. It's got a great soundtrack, and it's like peak Oliver Stone because it's so disjointed and broken up, and all of the like various points of view are sort of fused into the narrative of the film. That's why you get like the jump cuts between like black and white and like hyper color, and it's very good. Like Robert Downey Jr., by the way, it's one of his best movies because he plays the Geraldo character.
Yes.
And he's got a show called American Maniacs. So his opening monologue is they show a road sign on the highway, and he says, "We're here on Highway 666, a beautiful stretch of the American dream for many, but for Mickey and Mallory Knox, a candy lane of murder and mayhem." A candy lane. And then he says, they killed 12 people so far. Lieutenant Dale Wrigley was caught at this donut shop, and they showed Dale Dye, who is the military. He's like I think he's CIA or whatever, ex-CIA or whatever, but he's in all the Oliver Stone movies. And he gives like this testimonial about what happened when his partner was shot, and it's a very good movie. And the soundtrack is amazing again. But it's like I remember when it came out, it was seen as a kind of a Bonnie and Clyde, type of 90s film. But the critics panned it. They hated it. They hated the hyper violence in the movie. But I think they failed to see the artistic merit of it or the point of it, right? Which is that what Oliver Stone says is that oftentimes, satire holds up a kind of difficult reality, or a mirror to reality. And it's certainly prescient for the future. This was like also peak, serial killer in the news time, You know, there was the Cold War was dying down. We weren't at like overt war anywhere, and so the war is kind of like in the homeland and in culture. So yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah, what you wanna wind it down? Could you want to say anything?
Yeah, if you if you're gonna get into the natural born killer, I didn't know how long you wanted me to stick around. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen that one. I did just want to bring something up really quick before we get
Go ahead.
at least too far from the Manson stuff. And I don't know people out there who in the audience. I'm sure a lot of the regular audience here at the channel is familiar with the Process Church and the Final Judgment. But I got this book called Love, Sex, Fear, Death, which is the inside story of the Process Church, the Final Judgment. It took me a long time to track down a copy that wasn't like $300. But it has some writings from Robert de Grimston, who was one of the founders. And this is not, you can kind of see, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because this is just like gibberish, basically. It goes on half. And you can sort of, even though it's not like directly Manson, I think in this you can kind of see where some of the things Manson says, you can sort of see the influence here. Like I'll just read some of it here where there's kind of these short choppy sentences, and it seems to kind of the same thing, just sort of on and on, where he says, for the world of men is hell, the earth is hell, and man has made it so. Humanity chose the easy way that leads to hell, and now its journey is ended. Humanity is in hell, for it has created hell around itself. The game is over. It only remains for the separation to be complete and hell to be destroyed. And hell is the home of the devil, and the devil is mean and corrupt, a liar blinded by his own deception, yet cunning within the confines of his ignorance. And the devil is weak, and yet strong in his weakness. For the devil, by his cunning, can suck the strength from the truly strong and bring them down with him. And the devil breeds death, the death of the soul, and gives life to the torturous conflicts of the mind in which the soul is trapped itself. And again, it's the same kind of thing that just goes on and on. It's like, oh, the devil's strong, but he's actually weak, and his strength is his weakness, and weakness. And it's just that same kind of word. It's almost, I refer to it as like talking in figure eights. And so yeah, anyway, kind of, just this kind of page and a half just screed about the devil. And yeah, and then he says humanity is weak, and yet in its weakness, for humanity by its cunning can suck the strength from the truly strong and bring them down with it, which is the same thing you just said about the devil. So anyway, that's something I'd remembered reading it at one point, and I'd thought of that while we're kind of listening to that, and some of the other Manson quotes. I don't know. I think the influence from the Process Church and de Grimston is pretty clear there in Manson's way of thinking.
De Grimston, that was his name. Yes, great. That's great, Coot. I think that to see all that, in terms of, I mean, when you hear him speak, he's like, it's like he's let out of this place. He's let out of this, literal cage. And he's given this time to speak, and it's like all in, right? And a lot of it is, like processing all of this, the reading material and a life worth of stuff. But we haven't even talked about some of the larger elements in this. I mean, we kind of mentioned like the CIA stuff, and if you want to see that, you can go into my stream on Chaos, on Tom O'Neill's Chaos book that I did a few months ago. And yeah, but de Grimston, I think that also Jay's done this stuff like, in depth. It's interesting to hear Manson's words like spoken by him on video, because even when you're reading the transcripts of what he says, like in the books, there's just a certain there's like a certain element of disconnect, right, because there's so much legend, and there's so much we don't know what he's like. What is this thing? Well, I don't think we're never gonna, there's not ever gonna be anybody that comes out and says, no, this is all what happened. It's kind of like the JFK event. It's just another one of these things that is purposefully, confusing and disorganized, and there's so many different levels to it that another side of that will be, oftentimes, the simplest explanation is the truest one, but I don't know what's the simplest explanation in this sense. Right.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see that same sort of endless well of intrigue with like Epstein, for example. He's another one of these figures where there's so it almost feels like it's designed to kind of make you crazy, because it's like there's so many. And I mean, I think the JFK thing is interesting. I think that Manson's interesting, Epstein, like all this stuff is interesting, but I don't try to make sense of any of it. And I don't think, if anybody's like with Epstein, I think if anybody's gotten close to the bottom of that, it's Whitney Webb. But still, we're never going to know the depths of all of that. And it's sort of there to keep people, and I think it's worth talking about. I'm not like bashing like, oh, like this is dumb. No, I'm not saying that. I think this stuff is interesting. It's worth talking about. But yeah, there's just so many layers. There's so many levels. And it's one of those things like you're never going to get to the bottom of it, and it's like people, it's like more information kind of comes out over time. We had like Tom O'Neill coming out with Chaos and I don't know. So I think that, but yeah, it is interesting just to go back to me you said a moment ago is that, that kind of disconnect from, like with the Grimson thing I was just reading from, is if you were to hear him say that, it's like, okay, this guy's a kook, but it's sort of choppy and like these really short sentences, and that might have been a transcript. I don't know if that was something Grimson actually wrote. I can't remember if it was something he actually wrote or if it was a transcript of a speech, but it's kind of short, choppy, and then there's like a long sentence, and then so yeah, it's one of those things you can certainly see how it would be more. More, not compelling is not the right word, but something's kind of lost there when you're reading it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think that to kind of get into like before I let you go and to transition into Natural Born Killers, which will be pretty brief. I'm going to try to be concise with that one. I think that it's in terms of dramatizing this stuff or like making it like digestible for even the public. I think that Stone does a great job at this stuff because his movies are impressionistic, and that was his main thing with the Doors, was that the surviving Doors were like, oh, we got a problem with this movie. This isn't how it happened. And Oliver Stone was like, well, that is irrelevant to me. It's my vision of the way that I saw things, and that's sort of a higher or deeper level of looking at the story, because I think that's hard for people to understand. But overall, that becomes the way that people see it, right? When people see, for instance, the story of the Doors, they look at like the movie about them, or they read the Jerry Hopkins book, because it's difficult to find what actually happened if it was different. And so with things like this, I think Stone does a great job, or has an interesting insight into like, one level of what America means, right? Especially in the 20th century. And he's certainly critical of many things. But is the criticism and the way that he's presenting it, is it justified, right? Is it true? Or is it like is it irrelevant? Is it just another sort of disinfo thing? I don't think the latter is true. I think that he's as true with this stuff as he can be. I mean,
yeah,
he went back and, returned to the JFK story. And then of course, remember, he caught all that flack, like in the early 2010s, he interviewed Putin, right. Around the thing that happened. And, he interviewed Castro and all these people. And what was crazy with that was that like he was, seen as this like bastion artist of the left. And I remember him giving that speech. I don't know if it was at the Oscars, but he gave a speech and was like, this is more complex than you think it is. And basically like, I'm looking for the truth of these things, no matter where they take you. So I don't know what to say about that. I mean, take that as you will, but it seems to be true in many instances. Yeah.
No, I'd agree with that. One thing I'll let you get to Natural Born Killers, but one thing is when you mentioned the Doors, and that's something I'm always kind of interested in to see the media, the sort of the fictionalized media representations of some of these stories. Like you see this with The Social Network, right? The Aaron Sorkin film, and you see this with another interesting example of this is it's maybe slightly different, but like The Big Short, the Adam McKay film based on, I can't think of the name of the guy who wrote the book, but where there's sort of, those moments where they break down the fourth wall, where it's like something's happening in the film, and then one of the characters turns, he's like, this isn't actually how this happened. Here's what actually happened. He kind of, details, and then it's like back to the film. But what's interesting with that is that almost sort of becomes the official history in a sense, in that, I know Zuckerberg came out and was like, well, there were some inaccuracies with the Social Network. Here's what it is. Like you said, the remaining members of the Doors were saying, okay, here's that's not how things happen. But people sort of think, oh, that's the official history of the Doors. That's the official history of Facebook, right? These kinds of things where and I think that can be used for potentially nefarious purposes. And I'm not saying that, Sorkin or Stone have nefarious intentions. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that is something, that's important to look at and to think about is, where might we be getting a fictionalized version of things, and to, we can appreciate the films, as they are, but also look at, okay, how may, this, because we know how media, the narrative creation, right? That's can be a big part of media. So anyway, not to belabor the point, but yeah, that is a good observation about the Doors and the sort of reaction to the film, and I'm sure there's the only examples I can think of off the top of my head. But
Yeah, you call that the Saved by the Bell moment, by the way, right? Freeze frame. Right, and then they do an aside.
Yeah,
right, fourth wall. Yeah, but it is off-putting in those movies, and in a way, like it's supposed to bring you into the movie, but it's also like disjointed and disconnected. It changes the narrative. It's like we have this linear narrative going on, and then we have them talking to us all of a sudden, like it's a second person narrative, and so it ends up actually like it kind of alienates you in a way. And then brings you in. It's strange, but that fits the content because the matters under discussion are also disjointed. They're not, they're so complex and they're purposefully broken up. So we get an insight into these things through that. I think it's a pretty clever way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'll hop on. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I think this was the second time I've been on here. We did the Caddyshack. That was a lot of fun. Always fun to come on here and chop it up. And hopefully I wasn't hopefully I had something interesting. Hopefully people got something out of our discussion here tonight.
Yeah, man. You took off the Bud Fox tie.
I did,
right,
yeah.
From Wall Street somewhere along the way. So appreciate you coming here right after the hedge fund meeting, man. Really appreciate that.
Yes, it was good. I bought 200 million in credit default swaps for the impending housing market collapse. It's going to be The Big Short 2 coming up.
That was very specific, so I believe you on the surface. So, yeah, can you shout your channel out and everything, and say where people can find you?
Yeah, you can come check it out. Digital Minefield is the channel. I think if you go to youtube.com/TheRealCritterBrown, you might have to put the @TheRealCritterBrown. I can't remember, but it's one of those two. But yeah, just search Digital Minefield should be the first thing that comes up. I am working on, I got a full-time job. I have to work a lot and I have a lot of other things going on. It's been a busy few months. So the content has been a bit scarce, but have some things in the works, and I'm sure we'll get you back on there pretty soon. And
so www.digitalminefield@netscape.org. Okay.
Yes.
Is where you can find Kutsky. Yes, please go over there and sub to his channel. We've done a bunch of good talks over there. Always love talking to you, homeboy, and hope you have a good, rest of this year until we go strong into the next year, and we'll see what happens.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, have a safe trip down south. Yeah, so again, people, remember, donate, send super chats, send Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, send all that, and also get a subscription or a membership while you're at it. Subscribe, like, leave comments, all that good stuff. And all right, we'll catch y'all later. Thanks again.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Peace. All right, y'all. So look, that was Matty, Real Cooter Brown, our homeboy here. Thanks for being with me here on this long discussion of Charlie Manson, Natural Born Killers, etc. American Maniacs. I know it's a chill stream, man. I'm pretty beat. I mean, I've had a good weekend here. It's the end of the semester, so I've been doing faculty, elite faculty parties, right? The cocktail parties where we talk about the literati, and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, my voice is almost gone, so I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all being here with me. I've got my attempted red light therapy on that I got from Tristan and JD. And I'm trying to chill. I'm going to get off here in a little bit because I got to get going early tomorrow and drive 900 miles. Please think about supporting me with that PayPal and those one of those three main links so I can get them right away because I gotta put gas in the car, y'all. And had a big repairs done this week to the car, and it's Christmas time, everything's tight, so please think about supporting me. And somebody asked a little bit ago, was that Crispy? You said, when am I doing what performance movie? Like, I'm not gonna be able to find it. You asked me, I think when I'm doing performance, right? Is that the Mick Jagger movie you're talking? Shouts out to everybody in the chat. So look, here's a quick sort of overall breakdown of Natural Born Killers, because we've been talking about it throughout the stream here. The reason why this is relevant and applies to especially the interview we just watched is because obviously the Wayne Gale, he dropped his bear claw, Dale Wrigley, just out of the academy, right? Wayne Gale is obviously Geraldo, but with a Robin Leach voice, which is interesting because I think that's who it's based on. Donnie Jr. like hung out with Robin Leach to do this sort of TV English / Australian sort of accent for the movie, which is great because it gives this like performance aspect that when we watch Natural Born Killers, we're watching like performances within circles. So the Wayne Gale character, which is probably the most interesting one, at least to me, in the movie, is where we also get a crossover from a tabloid guy who is talking about, the events to a guy who like takes active part in them. So remember at the end of the film, like the last sort of sequence in the film is where the prison riot occurs, right? And he as it says in the movie, it says like only love will beat the demon, right? And Downey Jr. actually, the demon like beats love, right? He's the opposite. So there's this weird thing where in the movie, one of the points of the movie is that morality, like that Mickey and Mallory have this weird, like personal, anti-morality, but that binds them together and that feeds off of what they become, right? And that is so prescient in the movie because like when I watched the movie at the time, right, in 1994, it was like, to me, even I was 14 and it was obvious that it's supposed to be like a tabloid TV sort of pop culture vision of an America that like I didn't think was really accurate, but I knew what he was trying to do. So it's almost like it didn't really matter until later when the stuff sort of came true, right? The Bobbitts and the OJs and the Menendez brothers and the Tanya Harding and that like big, a Bubba Clinton, right? All these like big scandalous media events involving like the immoral stuff down to the worst offenses. And the way that like people like soak this stuff up. So this is really crazy because when you're watching the movie, you like really have to have a kind of discernment where on the one hand, you're enjoying the movie and you're enjoying like what he's doing with this like satirical vision of culture, especially like pre Big Nine culture, right? This is mid 90s, end of the 20th century, culmination of all the stuff in the 20th century. But you also have to understand that, when you start to like Mickey and Mallory, because you're really directed to do that, right? They become the protagonists in the movie, even though they are like total villains. So you have to wonder, like, who are the good guys? And that's what he's trying to show you in this. And he also, one of the things is that he shows you where like Mallory comes from, right? She comes from this Beaver Cleaverville vision of like TV, sort of sitcom family America gone absolutely bad. She's a total victim of a creeperdom. And they end up doing the like, what was the Sonic Youth, the cover of the Sonic Youth album, right? Where they take off. The first thing they do is he rescues her. They kill the parents, right? They spare her brother. The place burns, but it's like a TV set. Yeah. And the other interesting thing about this is the other meta reality of this movie is that Woody Harrelson is the protagonist. He's like the absolute like lone kind of, he's the Clyde here, but he's like alphas out everybody in this because he's total villain until he ends up, shaving his head bald, and becoming like this, like absolute, destructive chaos juggernaut in the prison riot. But that, Woody Harrelson's dad, right, was Charles Harrelson. So I'm sure everybody here knows that, but Charles Harrelson was convicted of, I think he was convicted of killing that federal judge, which I discussed before when I did the one of the movies about, it concerns the Dixie Mafia. He was like an enforcer for them, and he eliminated the judge who was trying the case. Then he got caught, but he's also, I don't know if this is confirmed, but I guess it's assumed that he's one of the guys right at the JFK, right? He's like the guy with one of the what do they call them? Like the behind the grassy knoll. They're the bums, right? The hobos. He's one of those guys. I think that's pretty clear that he is one of those guys. So he was a contract killer who was tied in with the mob and all this stuff, and with intelligence people. And if you've seen the Barbara Walters interview of Woody Harrelson at the time, they discuss it. Right? She asked him about it, and he says no, that he was trained by CIA. And she says, "Do you think that makes a difference?" And he says, "Do I think it makes a difference that he was trained by the CIA? Yeah, I think that makes a difference." And she says, "Why?" And he says, "Now we're getting into stuff I can't discuss." But that's interesting for all the reasons that you think, but also considering who he plays in this movie. So again, we have the convergence of art and reality, right? Consumerism, image, tabloids, selling people as a product, events as a product, eventually moving to selling of murder as a product, right? And then we have like this other mirror thing of the Hollywood guy playing the guy who's taken on by Hollywood people and like People magazine. So it's like this big circle, right? Toledo says getting Rodney to play the creeper dad in this was an interesting decision, considering that his past roles have been, I think, somewhat wholesome or likable. Yeah, that is interesting. And or that Rodney would like agree to do this. I think that one of the reasons was that he wanted to have as serious a role in a serious film as he could. This is kind of like one of the last ones, but it's weird how that sort of gives a legitimacy to the movie. It's very strange because, I think for much of his career, like he was sort of seen as illegitimate, right? We talked about Caddyshack. That was one of his first film roles. a very popular stand-up, but like, movies, he like wasn't in movies. He'd had a couple of like false starts with his career, and he didn't get famous until much later. I know that he was like very wild in his actual life. So I guess Oliver Stone like harnessed that for the movie. I also know that, you hear stories about the way that directors treat the cast as if it matters. Really, it's the performance that sort of matters in the end. Matters in the sense of like, remember when Shelley Long talked about Kubrick and how he treated her, but his purpose was to get her like reaction for the movie because you're an actress. Well, I know that Oliver Stone does that in his films. He can be quite harsh, but that's like he's trying to make the thing that's going to live, right? So he wants it to be kind of authentic for that. So, yeah, Toledo says, I was just thinking of what was Stone trying to say, maybe about cliche American family sitcoms in the past. Let me highlight this since I'm reading it. From the past, maybe he was trying to do a distorted version of those. So, yes, absolutely. That's exactly what he was doing. He starts off with like the first stages of television, right? Which is the 50s and black and white and like, Leave It to Beaver and all that stuff. Right. And then he shows the dark side of it and where it goes wrong. And it goes very, very wrong. Right. Hey, you must have been something before electricity, huh? Now I know why tigers eat their young. Oh, it's a nice hat. What do you buy a hat like this? I bet you get a free bowl of soup, huh? Oh, it looks good on you, though. Also, remember Sean Stone, right? Oliver Stone's son, did a couple. I mean, he did a lot with Jay, actually. They did Hollywood Decoded stuff together. He's in JFK and The Doors. He plays the young Jim in those films. I'm not sure if he's in Natural Born Killers. Tommy Lee Jones is great in this. Notice how like the perspective is dissociative in the film, and it changes from character to character. So sometimes it's black and white. Sometimes it's like the horrific prison warden's vision of violence. Sometimes it's like total green. I know that when they kill the shaman, right? That they feel total guilt for that, which is interesting because that guy is like part of their sort of metaphysical spirit world. Like it's almost like he's some sort of spirit guide. And remember the snake appears and then they end up killing him. They get bitten by all the snakes coming out of the desert. There's also like little stuff like when people are like having sex and then they cut to like insects eating each other outside of the window. So it's just like consumption. It's all like this consuming product thing that eventually gets to the vision of absolute freedom in the movie, which goes down to murder. And then in the end, the guy who is covering it, who the public sees as the moral like authority, if there is one in their world, which is the journalist, ends up going to their side, and and the bad guys get away, right? Remember they kill him like in the garden at the end, and then they escape. So it ends up being this kind of like satirical comedy. It's a really well done film. It's got a good soundtrack. It's got Cowboy Junkies, Sweet Jane. It's got L7. It's got, I don't know, a bunch of stuff on it. I had the CD at the time when it came out. So let me give some shouts out here to some supporters because I really appreciate this, you guys. Shouts out to Kat out there who drops $5 on PayPal. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That is a gallon of gas. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yo, shouts out to Aaron. Really appreciate you. Says gas money, Merry Christmas. Thank you. Gives me $20 on Venmo. Thank you so much, Aaron. Really appreciate that. That's very kind. Shouts out to, let's see. Nope, not that one. Shouts out to, yes, our homeboy, Real John Connor, who sends $50 for gasolina Fontana Gasoline. Synchro, dude. I just was talking about that song randomly yesterday in a stupid story about how I was a bar back in New York, and when I was in the kitchen, there was a Puerto Rican cook back there who played that song every single day. That was cool, dude. Let's see. And I don't see any other ones on here. Oh, shouts out to Jason, by the way, who also supported me on there. Let me look and see if there's any super chats on here. You guys, thank you all for sticking with me tonight. I know all of our friends were also streaming. Shouts out to David Patrick Harry, who I'll be with on Saturday from down south. We're going to do those Christmas movies. And let's see, I think Jay was streaming tonight. Jay and Tristan are coming up in 2 days, I think. Let me check. There's one more thing right here. And let me know in the what are y'all doing for Christmas? What are y'all doing for this next, couple weeks and for New Year? For the new year. Another year, y'all. 2024 is crazy. I graduated high school 25 years ago. That's crazy. Let's see. Try not to get my reflection of my passwords in here. Can't wait to get on the road. I'm going to play trance the entire time. And what are your suggestions, you guys, for what I listen to on the way? Give me music suggestions. Please drop those in the comments, especially afterwards. See, shouts out to G Money right there. G Money for $10 on Dono Chat. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. He says gas money. Thank you. Also, I'm going to be getting to some of the sponsored streams. I've got to do one on Walt Whitman. And let's see, Pioneers. I got a bunch of them to do and a backlog, but I've been trying to get through those. You guys enhance. Shouts out to Slowboy Whiteboard out there, you guys. Yeah, real JC says play my Spotify 100. Yep, I sure will. You made that good list. And dude, you should see I don't have Spotify, so I don't have a wrap up list, but I have a total Spurg memory for all the music that I played, like at any time, anywhere. So I'm gonna be listening to. You know what I'm gonna be listening to? Let's see. What was my mix I was listening to the other day? I'm gonna be listening to 1999 Paul Oakenfold, Global Underground New York discs 1 and 2. Soundtrack to Midnight Express. That's right, Giorgio Moroder. What else? Give me some suggestions afterwards, please, you guys. And that's about it. I will see you guys soon. I'll be doing some pure literary streams from down there. And I'll get to the Arabian Nights. It's a great book. I just couldn't get to it I couldn't get to an analysis. I didn't really have it up, like in me to do an analysis on that before I left for this trip. I still got to pack and I'm supposed to leave in just a few hours. So again, if you want to support me afterwards, you guys, I really would appreciate it. Drop me some big Christmas charity money. Help me to fill up my gas tank with some Wawa expensive petrol. I got to get on the road. I got to fill up 3 times and I got 900 miles to go. And once I get down there, I will give you a shout out. Big time shouts out. Thank you to all the members who've grabbed a membership. I can't wait to see my family. I cannot wait. I'm so burned out. Like, I know everybody probably is, but end of the year, like it's this trajectory and you're getting towards this wonderful time of year. I'm like physically burned out. I got no more voice. I've said like 33, let me confirm, million words in the last 4 days. I've gone to 2 faculty parties. I've ended, exams, all this stuff. And I'm just ready for it. So I'm ready to get on the road, go down there, see my sister. Shouts out to my sister, my whole down south family. And I can't wait to get in a family home, see some neighborhood lights, be with the dog and the cats, eat some, I don't know, some casserole. Help my mom make some casserole. And I can't wait to see some happiness on my cousins' faces and just to chill. I love chilling with my family. I have the best family. So I hope you guys have a great time with your families. And make sure you reach out to your friends, right? Especially the ones you haven't talked to in a while. Give them a call. People don't usually answer, but if they don't answer, send them a text message and then just let it go, right? That's it. Just do your thing. Don't put them to the test, I guess, or do whatever. But I love you guys, and I will see you soon. I'm going to end it right here. Okay. Peace. I love y'all. That was Natural Born Killers and Geraldo and Chaz Manson. All right, y'all. Love you. Peace.